It all starts in the city of Seoul in the middle of a metropolitan area, in one of those Korean rooms that looks more like a shoebox, man. Those cubicles where the folks from Parasite Family live. On the PC, there's an FPS going very PUBG, right? Wicked. And in the middle of the room is lying the victim of the lethal disease called laziness. Damn, I take back what I said, man. It's 7:05 in the morning and the badass's alarm is going off. This one is ready for the big world. Or actually not so much, because he already wakes up and the first thing he thinks about is going back to gaming. He gets up kind of tired while thinking it would be really nice if he could just not go to school anymore. He leaves the room scratching his belly like a lazy little chubby kid and sees a message on the wall. His mom had gone to work, so he was supposed to eat and go to school. This one is our protagonist, and check out the little art style, folks. I like a story with this kind of art. A bit later after eating, or he is leaving the house. Just below the shoebox cubicle he lived in, there was a giant building called Palace 104. He's sure that whoever lives in a place like that probably has no idea what the life he lives is like, but it's not like that was going to change anything. Oh, this is cool. In this story, the chapters have names, and the first one is, "You smell like a homeless guy." Already at the boys' school, you guys know what happens to him every day, right, man? He goes back first to the ground. All with his spine broken, neck out of place, his friend says that apparently they're actually going easy on him. But the one next to him says it's better to be careful. If he had hit his head instead of his back, the kid could have died. But the one in the big white jacket crouches down and says he doesn't even care. It's not like anyone would care anyway. The guy looks and asks if Minjun doesn't agree. That one is Park Seongbin, 18 years old, folks. He tells the boy that he's not going to let him get away so easily this time. Just then, the voice says that, as always, those hallways are way too noisy. Ah, folks, here's our K-pop waifu of the moment, my friends. The new queen of the black skirt tells Songbin to stop acting like a child and beating up the loser. Her name is Henina, and she tells the damn Songbin to stop acting like a disgusting loser. Him hitting the kids like that in the hallway was just ruining the school's vibe. The all-bent-up guy lifts up the protagonist and says he would never hit Minjun. They're great friends and we're just playing. She tells him to stop making stuff up, but Songbin says the one who actually hates Henina the most is Minjun. The poor guy is there, man, all crooked, fixing his glasses, sweating cold while thinking that Songbin and Henina are people he's known for a long time. Since elementary school, they've kind of been with him. Then Mina says Songbin must be crazy, and that she'll never trust anything he says again. Last time she listened to what he said, she ended up in that basement where Minjun lives, which was scary as hell. Apparently, you've got a backstory, some kind of mess happened. And our protagonist says she lives in one of those luxury apartments that he can see from far away from his house. Her relatives own a hospital and are extremely rich. Obviously, she's been spoiled since forever. Whether on TikTok, on Instagram, the girl has countless followers. Among the popular ones, she's the popular one. When she's studying, the artist draws her a little chubbier to make her look smarter. I don't know what that's about. But in daily life and on social media, she's a dangier man. Our boy already knows she's preparing to study in the United States next year. She was the type of person considered perfect. He couldn't find a single bad trait in her. Or actually, there was one. She humiliated the poor. Oh, my little protagonist, your biggest life problem is exactly what she hates the most. Life's rough. Look at that look of disgust she gives when he's looking at the girl. We go back a long time, back in 8th grade, when he had the courage to speak just once, man. All crook. He came over like, "Excuse me, are you going the same way as me?" But man, the girl turned around and asked if he hadn't taken a shower, because he was kind of stinky. It would be better if he went a different way. Look at the poor guy's bulging eyes, man. In their very first conversation and in her first sentence, he already found out. The girl he had a crush on despised him. He couldn't even understand what this thing about smelling like a poor person was. Man, what the hell is this? Koreans take financial competition to level 10, man. And the poor guy still accepts the humiliation, thinking that she's always smelling nice. Could it be that that's the smell of the rich? Actually, I think it's just right, because she's a hot girl and her pheromones are firing up his little nose. In the classroom, they had to sit side by side. And obviously, all the time he had to hear her saying he was a perfumed boy, but not really. Even studying with her for a long time, she always humiliated him. Strangely, because of that, he kind of didn't even know exactly how he felt about her. Even now in the present, with her looking amazing, he wonders, does he really like this girl? Or is it just his loser syndrome speaking louder? It'd be ironic to develop feelings for the person who humiliated him. For real, that would be the worst. Since always he's been destroyed physically by Songbin and emotionally by Henina. That's why every day he has that look on his face, defeated, humiliated, ashamed of his own life and his own face. Sometime later in the school courtyard, the protagonist's friends, you can already tell they sustain a good portion of McDonald's stock. Unfortunately, folks, that right there was us back in school, man. They're talking about anime, manga, and games. Damn curse. I see myself there, look, sitting down. I'm that loser right there on the bench. But even though they're talking about a bunch of stuff, our protagonist likes the poor guy who just got wrecked again, is sitting there devastated, not saying a word. On the left, we got the guy who gets with the most girls in the whole school with his grandma glasses. Name of the legend? Boss Sunho. On the right, the landing pad head called Obayonjin. These two are friends with our boy, and obviously they only really talk to each other because they kinda have similar interests. But those two bastards got lucky. They ended up in a class where nobody messes with them. In a way, compared to our boy, they were pretty lucky. For real, he was the only one cursed, with a miserable life in every sense. The friends were calling out to him while he was just there suffering by himself, when suddenly he gets startled as they shout at him. They show him a picture of a very healthy dancer, wanting to know if he's going to Luma's concert. From up close, these damn pop girls look like dolls, and the nerdy friend is dying to go to her show, waving his arms and shouting her name, saying she's a goddess. But our dear Minjin just declines, saying he appreciates the invite. From that day on, he's not into any idol anymore. Obayonjin, though, says he can't just give up like that, man. He has to keep being a fan of at least one of the top 5 idols. But our boy just says he's heading out. The guys change their expressions, saying, "What?" The guy's acting weird. Just a few days ago, he was shouting Lumina's name, all happy. So what happened? Byongjin just says, who knows, right? He's been kind of lonely lately. Maybe it was because of that rumor that was going around a while ago. Sunho says a guy as loser looking as that, just getting affected by a rumor, is ridiculous. But the big guy responds that they'd react the same way if it happened to them. Back in class 2 to 3, our boy sits down in his chair as lonely as always. From the first second of class, what he wants the most is for everything to just end, right there and then. He hears Songban and some guys talking in the background about a guy who was staring them down in the hallway, and he was already wanting to beat him up. Apparently, the guy who stared at him ran away from North Korea, and he wants to know how the hell that bastard is even here in South Korea. That's when one of them looks to the side, man. Apparently, that guy is the real deal, and judging by his face, his hand in his pocket, I'd be running. Right away, he asks who they're talking about. That must be the king of beatdowns. The guy's name? Kang Hakyul. The guy's name is literally a hack, like a cheat code. Better get out of there. But Shanbin right away says yeah, he's talking about that loser and asks if he's got a problem with it. He already grabs him by the collar, but Hakyul says to lower his voice. Shanbin says his mom is an honest worker and tries to lift the guy by the collar. But man, Kang Hakyul is just standing there staring and nothing happens. His friends come over to talk to Shanbin. Hold up, dumbass, you're about to get wrecked. The guy has hack in his name and he came from North Korea. You've lost your mind. But Shanbin is dying to get beat up. He leans in close and says the bastard came all the way from the north just to die in Seoul, so he better stay quiet. The guy walks off, and the one sweating the most from the whole situation was our boy, sitting there quietly in his corner. As always, the class was trash, the school was trash, life was trash. On the way back home, he once again tells himself that tomorrow he's not going back to that place, no way. Not going to that place anymore was the fastest shortcut to happiness. Suddenly, someone next to him calls out, "Ah man, Songban again? Damn, is he a clone, that bastard? He's everywhere." The jerk even says the kid showed up at the perfect time, just when he was about to go get some cigarettes. He tells our protagonist to ask the old lady up ahead to buy them for him. But then Minjin, my friends, is starting to lose his patience, and in his head, he's not going back to school anyway. In that case, he should at least curse this bastard out once. But nope, this isn't the moment our boy starts evolving yet. He only imagined yelling at him and just walked away. Even so, Salman asked why he was being ignored. The guys in the back started laughing at the fool, saying even the loser was ignoring him now. Sometime later, in an abandoned factory, our boy was testing the temperature of the floor, while the guys are wondering why he's being so brave today. Man, Salman's holding a brick, bruh. Is he trying to kill the kid? Let me remind you, he's the protagonist. If you kill him, the story ends. Leave him alive, please. And the guy still says that ever since elementary school, he's been letting him live too easy a life. Apparently, not even Songman's friends care if our boy dies. Man, y'all are going straight to jail. And Minjin's there on the ground saying they can kill him. He doesn't care since he doesn't even want to live anymore. But he felt bad for Songban. I didn't really get why he said that, but the guy gave him a solid kick to the stomach. The guy even says he better not even think about writing his name in a letter if he tries to Alt plus F4. Whoa. He says if Mingayon does that, he'll have to deal with his mom instead. Man. Sometime later, our poor guy is still lying there and wrecked. Back in the alleys of the favela, he climbs the same stairs as always, while telling himself that if the world ended tomorrow, it would be wonderful. He looks back, and seeing those rich people buildings, he tells himself that living feels kind of pointless. If he tried flying without a parachute, maybe everything would end. Man, he's actually arriving at the rich people's building for real. But someone calls out to the boy, and just by the way they speak, I already know who it is. It's her, our savage K-popper, folks. She wants to know what he's doing there. She's sure he doesn't live there. So what's he doing in front of these apartments? He better not say he's thinking about invading someone's house. Look at the boy's face, all devastated, looking at the girl. He came just to log off the server while she thinks he came to steal. And she's just there annoying him, asking if he's making the delivery or if maybe he's really thinking of taking something from there. The poor guy just clenches his fists, thinking to himself that he knows very well he doesn't live in a place like that. The only reason he came there was because he wanted everything to end right there. Then she gets close. Damn it, why does she have to be so mean and so hot? And she asks, what happened to the loser's face? Who beat you up? Man, our boy's got his cheeks clenched, and he's just standing there, quiet, not saying a word. So she says he's really frustrating. If he's getting beat up that much by Songban, why doesn't he just fight the guy already? After getting beaten up once, at least that wouldn't happen again as long as he started fighting back from then on. Seeing someone like him in front of her made even her feel pathetic. Really, he wasn't good at anything, so the least he could have was the courage to fight. If not, he was going to live that miserable life forever. Man, this girl won't stop. She's like a roasting machine. What's this? Turn it off, it's on 220 voltage. Look at that. Our boy left now. He was already done. He even lost the will to end it all. Just like that. And she's there, arms crossed, wanting to know if he's really going to leave. She picks up her phone and tells him to start answering her, that she's talking to him. But he just walks away. And that beautiful brat just stays there thinking how pitiful the boy's situation is. Extremely cowardly and weak. For sure, she's going to say something to that damn Songban to stop bothering him tomorrow. She's all cold and distant, but there's a little space in that heart of hers. Sometime later, back in the city alleys, there's our boy entering his shoebox. First thing he's gonna do, man. Obviously. Let's turn on the little PC to play a game. The boy's face is all messed up. Go clean up those wounds, man, or they're gonna get infected, and your head's gonna explode. Putting on his headset, he wonders if he gave up logging off the server just because of Yina. At least the things she said, he knows they're true. But whatever. Tomorrow he's not going back to school. From now on, he's never going to see those two's faces again. But maybe starting tomorrow is a great day to start working and help his mom at home. At that moment, the friends on Discord are already telling him to hurry up and get in. They've got tons of matches to play. Time passes and it gets dark. Our guy already shut the window and apparently he spent the whole day gaming. There he is shooting, holding his M401, killing zombies in the game. One of the guys in the call then says he has to step out real quick and will be right back. Minjin thinks it's weird and tells him, stay here, at least finish the match. But the guy replies that he has to leave urgently. He's playing with his school friends and Bayanjin, the chubby one, says he's gotta go. That's when Minjin looks over and sees that it's 10 at night, man, his day's already over. But the guys in the call tell them to check the news. Things were total chaos in the world. Suddenly, someone bangs loudly on his door, which startles him. He takes off his headset, kind of confused, not understanding what's going on. Slowly, he gets up, walks down the hallway, and reaches the door, wanting to know who this crazy person is. The doorknob seemed like it was moving, and he's just standing there not getting what this person wants. He goes to the peephole to see what it is, and yeah, there really was a guy standing there, moving side to side. That one's one of the neighbors from upstairs, and the person with the shaky voice is saying for him to open the door. Minjin wonders if maybe a delivery was sent to the wrong floor again. But man, if you look at the guy's back, you can see he left a red trail behind. Minjin thinks the guy's drunk and is trying to mess with him. But he knows this dude's gonna stay banging on the door all night unless he opens. He's always annoying like that, so Minjin decides to just open up and deal with it. As soon as the door opens, he steps slightly to the side, hesitating to ask what's up, but his expression changes in an instant. The guy in front of him was completely soaked in blood. Right away, Minjin freaks out and asks if he's okay, if he wants him to call an ambulance. But man, the dude opens his mouth wide and lunges at him for a bite. Minjin manages to put his forearm under the guy's throat and asks why he's acting like a lunatic all of a sudden. But the guy doesn't stop and he yells at the bastard to answer him. Then he gives him a brutal kick to the chest and sends him flying outside, man. He already has his hand on the doorknob and slams the door shut. The guy starts banging on the door again, but Minjin braces himself with his back against it, man, his legs shaking like crazy. He's breathing hard, not understanding what the hell that was. That dude's face looked completely different. Obviously, as a smart citizen, the first thing he tries to do is call the police, but man, the apocalypse had just barely started and the phone already isn't working. Actually, it seems like it started a while ago because he's been getting emergency alerts since 9 in the morning. It's just that he spent the whole day gaming, right? Got beat up at school and ended up not seeing anything. He hears some sounds coming from that little floor window. Only in Korea, man, this stuff is wild capitalist engineering at its finest. A window at the top of the wall that opens to street level. Incredible. It rains 5 milliliters, your whole house is flooded. A genius designed that one for sure. And the first thing he sees outside is a bunch of people being devoured while others are running and screaming for help. Minjin obviously has no idea what's going on. And the old guy who was banging on his door is now out there chasing after other people too. He immediately shuts the window and starts wondering if his mom is okay. This was exactly the time she should be getting home. He starts calling, but the call isn't going through. Sometime later, night has finally fallen. He turned off the lights and hid in the back of the room under the bedsheet. With his phone in hand, he was trying to look for news, but unfortunately, not even the internet was working anymore. He decides to turn on the TV and keep the volume low so no one hears. On the news, they say a series of brutal deaths were happening all across the city. The number of victims was uncountable, and the government was treating it as an act of terrorism. Investigations were starting to figure out the cause and who's responsible, but no info had been released yet. Minjin's confused. Did this really seem like terrorism? He couldn't imagine that guy upstairs was some terrorist. And obviously, like in every good apocalypse, the government tells you to lock yourself inside and avoid any outside contact until everything is resolved. But suddenly, breaking news is announced. On the streets of Busan, one of the busiest cities, attacks had started breaking out. Violent incidents like this were being reported everywhere, all over Korea. The police and military forces were starting to act, but it looked pretty hard to control. Our protagonist, who's addicted to zombie games, is already starting to recognize that this looked like a familiar scenario. What he couldn't believe was that the whole country had fallen apart like this overnight. The why and what's causing this, that's what he needed to know. He gets up, saying there's no time to just sit there like that. At least that guy that was bugging him seemed like he had already left, so maybe it's clear outside now. The first thing he has to do is take control of the apartment. That means locking the front door was the most important thing. Looking through the peephole, there was no one there. He opens the door, a little hesitant, and sees that the footprints were kind of just leading down, so maybe the guy just walked off. Then he goes to the main entrance, slides the bolt, and takes a peek. Right in front of the apartment, there's already a zombie. He quietly shuts the door and the zombie looks around. But not seeing anything, the thing eventually walks off. With everything locked up, finally in theory, no one else should be able to get in. Now the important thing was to make sure there wasn't already anyone else inside this place. It was late at night, and maybe it was better to just wait for sunrise. The police or someone would eventually come rescue them. What he really wanted to know was where his mom was. The news continues to roll until right in the middle of a report, the TV suddenly loses signal. That's it, Minjin, my dude. Now there's nothing else you can find out. He's scared to even look through the sewer window, afraid of being spotted, so he just falls onto the bed. The problem is, obviously, nobody can sleep in a situation like this. The most important thing was that he was feeling something strange. Yesterday, back at that apartment building, he wanted to Alt plus F4 because life was hell. He wished the world would end, because that would make everything better. And now, it actually seemed like it was happening. But now, he was desperately trying to survive. Maybe, in a way, it wasn't even that different from what his life used to be. Before, he had to survive that hell, and now he had to survive this one. Morning came, and out in front of his house, there were countless wrecked cars and zombies walking all over the place. Little by little, he starts opening the main door to the complex. A bunch of bodies and a few zombies wandering with no direction. The air was filled with the bitter smell of blood, and just from the atmosphere, you could tell nothing there was safe. Trying to leave this place now would basically be suicide. With his back to the door, he wonders what he should do. That's when he decides to start worrying about supplies. In his room, he had 4 ramyeon and 6 cup noodles. Adding up everything he had stored, it totaled about 2 weeks of survival. The sink water and the gas were still working, which was really good. If he rationed everything, and those utilities didn't cut off, he could survive without leaving for a whole month. There's no way that after a whole month, no one would show up there to rescue them. The only thing he really wanted to know was whether his mom was okay, and where she was. He couldn't call the police, couldn't call an ambulance, couldn't reach anyone. Another problem was that in this apartment complex, there were 5 homes with people still inside. Besides that old guy who had already turned into a zombie and was outside, there were still others. He knows there's an elderly couple, he wonders if they're still there. And then he remembers that there's a guy from high school who lives up on the top floor. Every Tuesday when he was heading to school, he'd see that guy bring his girlfriend over. Since yesterday was Tuesday in theory, she must have stayed the night. So he decides to check the top floor to see how things are. He couldn't live in a place where he didn't even know if there were zombies or not. He goes door to door to listen for any sound inside each apartment. Obviously, he wants to know if there are people, but he also doesn't want to draw attention to himself. There was no sound and no one, and now only the top floor guy was left. Looking up at that final flight of stairs, he just hopes that guy isn't like the uncle that turned into a zombie. Honestly, I'm just thinking this guy's a total idiot, right? Climbing those stairs without even holding a weapon. Man, grab something, please. He's there, all freaked out that the door's open, but like, what if there is a zombie in there? What are you gonna do? You'll for sure just end up running like an idiot again. And when he gets up top, he sees the guy's door is also open. He decides to go in to check if everything's all right. And the first thing he sees is a bunch of furniture all messed up. He only notices that there's no one around. But just then, something catches his attention. In the left corner of the room, there's blood on the floor. He wasn't seeing it yet, man, but in the bathroom, the girl had already been devoured, and the guy was standing right next to her. And the protagonist says it was on the second day of the apocalypse that his life changed completely. Even though Minjin couldn't see anyone, he felt a presence. With his legs already shaking, he starts stepping backwards. The plan was simple. get out of there as calmly as possible, not make a sound, and not draw anyone's attention. But like any good mentally challenged protagonist, he goes and elbows a plant pot, which falls on the ground and of course, makes a loud-ass crash. He hears a noise from inside and bolts because now there's no other option. But man, he manages to trip over his own foot. That's his biggest enemy, himself. Now I like that Henina even more. Someone has to roast a guy like this, seriously, all crooked and clumsy. And obviously, in that act of stupidity, the guy who had turned into a zombie had enough time to get close. The name of the third chapter is Why Are You Here? And right at that moment, the guy is face to face with him. He had just gotten up in front of the balcony. Man, our protagonist went from 0 to 100. He manages to dodge by ducking his shoulders down, and when the thing tries to bite his back, he stands up, grabs the legs, and throws it down the stairs, man. Go check if the floor is cold. But obviously, right, that was kind of by accident. And he's just lying there on the floor in disbelief that the guy really threw himself off the building. Desperate and completely out of breath, he comes running, grabs the door handle, runs down the stairs, gets back to his apartment, and throws himself on the floor. He's there now, on all fours in the room, all crooked, with trembling hands, wondering if that guy from the upper floor isn't dead. That would mean that he, in that moment, had killed someone. But he pulls himself together quickly. He tells himself no, he didn't kill anyone. This wasn't his fault. That guy attacked first, he just defended himself. Yeah, folks, this here is that kind of human protagonist, you know. If you think he's suddenly going to turn into some Junwoo, awakening an SS rank system with daily missions and doing 3 push-ups to get Squall, that's not happening. He's just there, man, having accidentally killed a zombie, already devastated in his room in disbelief that he might be a murderer. He spent that entire day tormented by the guilt of having taken someone's life. Even if it wasn't intentional, at the end of the day, it was his actions that caused that guy to fall off the roof. Then he gets up in the middle of the night, heads out to the stairwell, and decides to go down to the street. The guy he had attacked up there, man, was still standing. And the bastard turns around, dude with his neck and legs more twisted than pasta after 10 minutes in boiling water. Minjun's just frozen, staring in disbelief. How was that guy still alive? The all-Bennett zombie started slowly approaching. And that's when it finally clicked. This guy wasn't human anymore. Look at his expression. He's already narrowing his eyes. You're getting feisty now, huh? He apologizes to the guy, but unfortunately, he was just a zombie. That was the day when his fear of these creatures began to fade. The next day, 3 days since the apocalypse started. After a little instant ramen meal, he already knew sooner or later the power and gas were going to be cut. The question was, when? And that's why he's making sure to eat the things that require electricity to prepare first. The problem is, was it really the right move to just stay there waiting for someone to save him? Maybe it'd be worse to try doing something only once there was nothing left. Besides, since no one had shown up besides the rooftop guy, maybe there weren't any other infected so nearby. At the very least, he should go upstairs and light a fire to signal for help or something. Staring at the barricade he made, he was sure. Tomorrow, he'd have to go out. Maybe it was because just a few days ago he had been ready to give up on life, or because of what he experienced up there that day. But for some reason, he wasn't afraid of the zombies anymore. That's when suddenly his phone signal comes back for a second and gets a call from his mom. As soon as he answers, she asks where he is and if he's okay. He says he's fine, hiding out in their home, and wants to know where she is. She replies that she was taken by some soldiers who were evacuating the city on the very day it all began. They didn't even let her come back home, and back then the phone wasn't working. At that moment, she's in a shelter in the city of Songban. He right now doesn't need to worry about her, and if he's at home, he is not under any circumstance to leave. She was going to make sure that eventually the military would come rescue him from there. She's saying something about the city of Seoul, about the neighborhood, when suddenly, the call drops. This cursed signal never stays up, but it was fine. He was already feeling much calmer, now that he knew his mother was safe. Since the signal had come back for a few seconds, he got a flood of messages. His friends were talking in the chat about the madness the world had become, about the alerts, the apocalypse, the police, the zombies, and everything else. And the crazy Byonjin man, the chubby one, is already saying that an alert is basically a raid signal and their mission has started. Our MC can't believe this idiot is cracking jokes in a situation like this. That's when it hits Minjun. Those two friends of his live really close by, so they can help each other. But he only has his mom, and since she's far away, in the end, he doesn't really have anyone. That's when he remembers the only person he knows who lives nearby, not too far. Her, the queen of K-pop with the little red lips. Out of everyone he knows at that moment, she's the one who lives the closest. That's when he remembers she even came to his house once a while ago. Now we get to see the flashback of that whole mess from the beginning. The pile of beer, ramen, and that shrimp snack that's so good. The guys are talking about Henina, and it seems like she liked one of them and asked to be introduced to him. But he asks if she, by any chance, doesn't know he already has a girlfriend. If she doesn't know, perfect. It's just kind of weird because he thinks there's no way she'd come to a place like this. She's kind of spoiled. And Songban, right man? Of course he brought every gangster in the city. The guy with the tattooed arms sitting in the corner says she won't care too much about this place anyway. She's never gonna find out that this is Minjin's house, so she'll end up coming. That guy in the bottom left corner says if she shows up here, it's cause she's looking for a boyfriend. The tattooed one, whom now I realize probably is Songban or else his identical twin, says if she comes, it'll be the perfect chance. Right then, he pulls out his phone and says she just got in touch. Looks like she really arrived. She was out there waiting. It was just a matter of going to pick her up. Our boy Minjin looks all shaken that she really came, man. He's known her for a long time and knows just how much she likes to humiliate poor guys. The damn girl shows up beautiful as ever, but look at the face of disgust she's already carrying. There's barely space for one Minjin in that room, but there's like 7 dudes desperate for a woman and the only girl on Earth just arrived. But hey, it's her, right, man? She stops at the door and says this place is kind of peculiar. The guys start telling her to come in and get comfortable, but right away, she says she's leaving. That day, what made Minjin feel the most miserable wasn't even that Songban brought a bunch of druggies into his room. Yena said that this place was disgusting, with that cigarette smell and the sticky floor. They should have told her it was Minjin's house, because if she'd known, she wouldn't have come. Look at the face he made hearing that, man. The boy's reaction wasn't great. Now he's there like a fool, sitting on the high ground toilet. Why do Koreans build stuff like this? Who knows, man? And the poor guy's such a sucker. He's still sitting there wondering if she's safe. Since her dad is the director of a hospital, maybe he knows something about the cause of the zombie virus, right? Since, he kind of works with that stuff. What he doesn't get is why he's even worried about this damn girl in a situation like this. She must be living super safe after all. Her life is probably locked up safe and sound on the top floor of that building. That's when someone from outside shouts the name Jung Minjin. From his incredible high ground, he looks at the door, kind of confused. He's sure someone just called his name, or is he going crazy? The person's banging on the door, asking if he's there and yelling at him to open up. And while our fool's there with his eyes wide open, yeah, he definitely recognizes the voice. The most savage one of all. Yena herself crouched down, knocking on the floor window of his room. But obviously, that kind of knocking wasn't gonna go unnoticed. She looks to the side, and the zombies were coming. At least one of them was limping, so it'd take a bit to get there. She keeps banging on the window, telling him to open up. The poor girl is desperate, crying for help. And still gorgeous. Damn her. Even after all the humiliation, our protagonist still rates her a 10 out of 10. And right in that moment, Minjin opens the door and tells her to get in quick. Of course she runs in, he closes it, locks the bolt, and the zombie horde is left outside. The poor girl had come all the way from her building in a rush, and now she's collapsed on the floor, sweating. Her feet are all red. He can tell she really went through it to get there. He asks if she's okay and why she came. Then suddenly, she grabs his shirt and throws herself into his arms to cry. Man, what a sad moment. I'm actually moved by this scene. She's there, clinging tight to our boy, who's asking what happened. Chapter 4. Henina and the basement. After a moment of silence, he asks again if she's okay. That's when she finally lets go of his shirt. And damn it. Yo, artist, why'd you throw a bucket of water on her like that? Not to mention he used like 78 different skin tones just to, let's say, accentuate the curves. And looking absolutely stunning. She thanks Minjin for opening the door. If it weren't for him, she definitely would have died. He's all red now, right, man? All awkward. He just says that it's good to hear that, thank you. He's just glad she's safe now. She then looks to the side. Seeing everything he's barricaded, she asks if he's alone. He replies that yeah, his mom left for work 3 days ago and never came back. But luckily, he managed to talk to her and found out she's okay. Looks like she ran into some soldiers and was evacuated to a safe place. She says at least that's some good news. Our boy then wants to know how her parents are doing. She replies that her dad seems to be stuck at the hospital, but is safe. When she goes to talk about her mom, she hesitates for a second, but then says yes, she's fine too. Right then, she asks if he has some water because it's been a long time since she had anything to drink properly. She was surprised that his house still had electricity. Some time passes, she's gotten good and hydrated. And the artist man, as always, cooked, right? Ah, you sly dog. From the angles, we're starting to understand a bit about the pencil master's preferences. Minjin's startled at how much water she's drinking. Not to mention, hey, they need to ration it. If a supply gets cut, he's screwed. But he decides not to say much right now. She just ran for her life, so it's fine. Then he asks if she came all the way from her house to here. Or actually, he wants to know why she came from her place to his. She then says she's been hiding this whole time, ever since the day she saw him standing in front of her building. When she got home, some stuff happened and she decided to leave. She was walking through the city streets when suddenly she heard a scream. When she looked ahead, a bunch of people were running toward her, panicked. She didn't even know what they were running from, but she obeyed and ran too. Sometime later, she was hiding in the stairwell of some apartment complex. She kept waiting for a chance to get out of there or for someone to save her, but no one came, and so she just stayed. He asks if she stayed in a stairwell for 3 days. She then says that at the bottom of the stairs there was this tiny little room, kind of like an office, and that's where she stayed. At least there was a small water bottle, and that's how she survived. But on the third day, she was already at her limit, starving and dehydrated. That's when she decided she had to leave. Since it was less than a kilometer from her place, she thought the best option was to run and try to make it. Maybe she'd run into a police officer or something that could save her. But as soon as she turned the corner, there was a bunch more zombies. And of course, that was exactly the street she needed to take. So she kept going, trying to get closer to her house, but kind of avoiding zombies. That's when she remembered. This was Minjun's neighborhood. The problem was, once again, the way to her house was blocked. That's when she started trying to remember exactly where his house was. And she remembered, right then. She was sure that he went home 3 days ago. If he hadn't gone out and died like an idiot, he'd still be inside. Man, she was brave, crouching down, sneaking past zombies. Minjun says he's impressed that she had the courage and skill to get all the way there. Yeah, way better than you, right? You saw a zombie and tripped over yourself and almost died. She's there, eyes closed, looking gorgeous, saying at least she's relieved he really was at home. Then she says her hair is all gross and she's all sweaty. If there's still water in the house, she'd like to take a shower. Man, our boy's a peculiar one. He's straight up staring at her armpits. He even roasts her a little, saying her armpits are really soaked. If she wanted, he could lend her some of his clothes. The poor girl's turning a little red, right? Not exactly the kind of comment you make. And the punishment she gives him, one a lot of people would probably want. The poor guy gets stomped out. She says he really is an idiot, and it's no wonder he deserves to get hit. Then she just walks off, saying if there's water here, she's going to take a shower. All he can say is, okay, what else can he say? And that's when it starts to hit him. Suddenly, his whole situation changed. Now the question is, what's he going to do? Before she showed up, the plan was to go out and scavenge for supplies. But now you feel kind of bad about leaving her behind. Problem is, there's only enough food in that house for 1 month. With 2 people, that obviously gets cut in half. It really was a desperate situation. But at the same time, he can't stop thinking. The legendary Henina is showering in my house while the world is ending. He remembers back at school, man, when he'd run into her, and she'd always make a face and wouldn't even look him in the eye. Now there she is, suddenly opening the door, asking him to lend her some clothes because she's been wearing the same ones for days. All awkward, he asks if she wants pajamas or if she wants shorts. She just tells him to give her anything. When he hands them over, she sniffs them, and our boy's all red. She says, obviously this stuff stinks like hell, and asks if he doesn't have anything else. He says he's got more, sure, but they all smell like that. She puts the clothes on and says the smell of those rags is almost unbearable. But fine, she wear it until her stuff dries. Minjun, all crooked and nervous, says he washed them recently. To which she replies that must be what happens to clothes when you live in a place like this. Then she leaves, saying there's not much to do anyway. Our protagonist is just sitting there in disbelief, asking himself if she really has some kind of personality issue. It didn't make any sense. In a situation like this, and she's worried about smell, time passes, night falls. Her clothes are still laid out to dry and they've eaten some ramyeon. She then asks what they're going to do. It looks like no rescue is coming. She says that before she got there, her plan was to go somewhere else. But now she says that's insanity. They still have food, so why take the risk? She nearly died several times just to get there. So if he's thinking of going outside, she's not going. Kind of awkward, he says he understands. He's not saying they have to go, he's just saying that was the plan before she showed up. Now that she's there, they can stay together and wait for rescue. But the bipolar lunatic suddenly asks, so what are we going to do when we run out of food? The poor guy's sitting there like, damn, what do you even want from life? Then he says the only way they might last longer would be breaking into the nearby homes and looking for resources. But there's no way to know whether the houses or apartments might have infected people inside. On top of that, the screaming in the area is getting quieter, which means fewer and fewer people are alive. When they run out of food, there's no choice. They'll have to go out. But then he gets up and says, no way, we can't just stay in here. He says he understands it's dangerous, but they can't just stay put forever either. They're going to run out of food. That's inevitable. She says they'll think about it when it happens. He still hadn't stepped outside and had no idea how terrifying it really was out there. Those people who looked like zombies were extremely scary, and she almost died just to get here. Minjun, with his usual wide-eyed look, says that if she managed to make it all the way there, then maybe they could get out too, avoiding attention the same way she did. Besides, she knows very well that those people are exactly like the zombies from movies. From what he's seen through the window, you only get infected if you're bitten. But then again, it's not like they cared much about being infected anyway. None of it mattered. He didn't have anything to lose. But she's not having it, man. She tells him to wake up. She wants to survive, so it'd be great if he didn't go turning into a zombie. She still has to go study in the United States next year. He hits her with the obvious. Well then, don't get bitten, right? Not to mention, what he's been noticing is that depending on the condition of the zombie, they end up walking slower. Obviously, the ones with broken legs can't run, so they're easy to avoid. Not to mention their running speed is slower than a normal human running, which means they can be dodged entirely. He asks if she ever played tag as a kid and says it's basically the same thing. If you see it that way, it's way less scary. She just makes a face and says he's lost his mind, calling this the same as playing tag. The Pencil King strikes again. She lies down and says she's going to try to sleep a bit, asks if he's got some blankets. He says yeah and sets up the perfect bed, one mattress next to the other. The absolute legend. But obviously she wasn't having it right, man. She asks if he's crazy, thinking he's going to sleep glued up against her like that. She immediately points to the other room and tells him to sleep there. All awkward, he tells her to remember, this is his house. There's no way he's sleeping in front of the bathroom door. She changes her expression and says, all right, I get it. I'm the uninvited guest who must have gone crazy for a second. She says she'll sleep over there and he can keep the comfy bed. He's calling out to her, but she tells him not to worry. She'll stay next to the bloody staircase while he's there on the fluffy mattress. He tells her that's insane and that inside the house is way safer. But she just tells him to stop worrying about the home invader. She's leaving now. Our boy gives in, right folks? He says fine, tells her to stop making a fuss. There he is now, sleeping in front of the kitchen. To be honest, it's not even that bad. But obviously, it'd be way better right next to her. He closes his eyes, saying that either way, he'll sleep easy. He's exhausted. At least he's still inside his house. And thanks to her, he's not so alone anymore. But seriously, that damn girl doesn't shut up. Night falls, and outside you can hear some zombies growling. Time goes by, and Yina can't sleep. The zombies keep making noise, until she calls Minjun's name. He turns over and asks, what is it? That's when she asks if maybe he wants to sleep in the room. Of course the guy accepts, right? But if you think he's gonna be spooning with her, nah. He's there in the corner like some loser who got punished in school and has to sit away from everyone. Chapter 5, Don't Leave Me Alone. Lying there in the middle of the blankets, she says that zombie noise is just weird. She heard that sound hundreds of times while hiding in the stairwell. But even so, it was something she never got used to, and it's still terrifying. And she says she misses her mom. The poor guy's just there in the corner, right? Not saying much. Then the sun rises. They had checked the houses and every floor of the buildings. Everything was full of zombies and blood. And our dear Yina, right folks, wakes up absolutely beautiful, of course. Staring down at her from above, there's Minjun, wondering how long this damn girl is gonna sleep. For someone who said she was dying of fear, she looked pretty chill. It was already 9 in the morning when the little princess finally woke up, living her stress-free life. When she looked back, our boy was already putting on his jacket. She wanted to know where he was going. He says he's thinking about going upstairs again to take a look. She immediately gets up, saying that's insane. He could end up infected and maybe there's a bunch of zombies up there. He ignores her and just asks if she's coming or not. Cause obviously, she answers no. And with that, he closes the door and starts climbing the stairs. As always, without a weapon in hand because he's got 16 IQ points, a true apocalypse genius. One thing that did freak him out though was that the front door's glass was starting to crack. Even though it was covered with a film, there was still some risk, but he couldn't do much about it and kept going up. That's when someone behind him says the smell is awful. Obviously, it's Henina saying she got a bad feeling about what they're doing. He's standing there kind of confused, but hey, since she's coming along, he keeps going. At the top of the apartment was the body of the guy's girlfriend who had died. Man, the situation up there is just incomprehensible. And Minjun finds it weird that she's not moving, didn't turn into a zombie. Humble boy didn't get scared. Instead, he even said a prayer for her. As they were leaving the apartment, she asked if there was anyone there. He said there was, but the person had already died, and it was better she didn't see the scene. Yana didn't really know how to respond, but just went along with it. Now both of them are thinking about lighting a fire. The problem is you can't keep the fire going all the time. And if they wait to light it until they see a helicopter, maybe the smoke won't go up fast enough. She decides to start yelling, calling out to the neighbors to see if anyone's on the upper floors. But he tells her to lower her voice, saying she's only going to draw more and more zombies their way. The glass at the entrance was already cracking, so that definitely wasn't a good idea. With not much of a choice, the two of them kept on surviving alone in that place. Sometime later, she randomly asks what his MBTI is. From what I looked up, that's a personality test. He says he never took it. She says he's the first person she's ever met who hasn't taken it. Probably doesn't even have Instagram. And if he does, he must have less than 50 followers. He says yeah, without really caring much. She then wants to know what his hobbies are, what he does with his life. When he says he's a gamer, she wants to know what kind of games. He says he's been playing this zombie killing game lately called Rage ZZ. She laughs and says that's hilarious, that he was playing a zombie game and the world ended exactly like that. She then says she's sure that if he took the test, he'd be an introvert for sure. Someone who doesn't go out, always eats alone at school, and likes those types of games. No way he's extroverted. She asks if he's spontaneous or reactive, and our boy is just sitting there thinking this damn girl talks way too much. They could die any moment if the zombies break in. And there she is, wanting to talk about this nonsense. She's there asking about the MBTI again while he's half answering, saying he doesn't know much about it. But really, he's just thinking that before all of this started, she wouldn't even look him in the eye. And now he's the only person she has to talk to. And man, the Queen of the Stomp strikes again. While he's thinking, this is crazy, he's alone with the girl he's always kind of had a crush on. Maybe that was a good thing. And the cursed girl won't stop hitting him. How can someone be this cruel? She's there pounding on his chest, telling him to answer. While he can only wonder if any of this really even matters anyway. At any moment they could die, and if one of them ended up on the ground tomorrow, it wouldn't be a surprise. That's when she kicks him, telling him to stop ignoring her. He apologizes, saying he was just lost in thought. Time goes by, and the two of them are like us, folks, reading a little manhwa. A few days had already passed, and yeah, the apocalypse was starving everyone. But somehow, some people just don't lose weight. The girl's still looking perfectly well-nourished. And with those little red lips, she asks if the poor guy's already finished doing the laundry. There he is, man, fuming, already tempted to leave this damn girl behind and run off. Why? Out of nowhere, in the middle of an apocalypse, did he become this cursed girl's house slave? She should be the one washing her own clothes. But poor Minjin can't express himself properly, and there's not much he can say to go against her. Electricity had finally gone out, so no machines were working anymore. At least the water was still running. But the food, yeah, it was getting to a concerning level. Already with his backpack on, he tells Henina that he's heading out. I thought she blocked the boy, but nah. She just says, okay, but be back in 30 minutes max. If he's not back in half an hour, she says she's going to kill him herself. He says, all right then. Outside, the glass was still holding. He steps out hesitantly and closes the door. Over the past few days, he's been patrolling the paths he knows are safe, and he's been using the opportunity to observe and study the infected. They really do act exactly like zombies attacking living people, but they don't attack the dead or the already infected. Their vision seems to be generally poor. At about 50 to 100 meters, they can't really see you. On the other hand, they're extremely sensitive to sound, so you've got to keep noise to a minimum. During the day, for some weird reason, the number of zombies is 3 times lower. It's like the others run for the shadows or just somehow don't like daylight. That's why he always avoids going out at night. He crouches and watches a few of them while thinking about their traits. One thing that really catches his attention. These zombies are exactly like the ones in that game. He wonders if that has anything to do with this. Either way, all this was just the beginning. With the world like this, it was only a matter of time before everything would end. Back in the apartment a while later, Yena had already finished reading all the manhwa and now was starting to get bored. The problem? Dan Minjun was taking forever. The past few days, he's been disobeying her too much. So she's going to have to make sure he gets a little lesson. She looks up because, once again, she hears the sound of a helicopter. But unfortunately, that didn't matter. We see that when the helicopter flew over the building, they managed to light a fire and send up a lot of smoke, but were completely ignored. Night kept approaching, time passing. And there she was, biting her nails in worry, wondering why that damn Minjun wasn't back yet. She starts pacing in circles, saying it's already been over an hour since he left. Something must have happened. Maybe he'd even been infected. At the very least, she's sure that the moment he steps back in the door, she's going to beat that boy up. He must be spoiled and only listens when he gets hit. Next time he tries to go out, she's going to break his legs to make sure it doesn't happen again. But man, the sun's already going down. Her energy for complaining is running out as she's there devastated, already starting to cry and begging that he's not dead. The sun was setting, and she remembers that he warned her. That's when more and more zombies would show up. She's curled up in a corner, begging him to come back as soon as possible, telling herself, please, don't let me be alone. And then suddenly, she hears a sound and looks to the side. It was our boy coming in, telling her to take a look. But then his expression suddenly changes. And there she goes looking all pouty because our boy took way too long. She says the bastard's been late for hours and asks if he's got a death wish. She's already winding up to punch him, saying he needs his head straightened out. But then he hands her a flyer, stating the helicopters that had been flying overhead were dropping these. He saw it falling from far away and well, it took him a while to get to the place and pick it up. Now her expression completely changes. She's in shock for a second and asks what the hell this is. Chapter 6. Time to leave. The banner said that the Gundu region would go into quarantine, and that all survivors should evacuate before 6 p.m. on the 10th. The problem, man, is that's tomorrow. How are they supposed to get out of this whole place that fast? He tells her to look on the back of the flyer where it lists the danger levels for each region. Their current area is marked as cautious, but Yanjong, which is nearby, is listed as safe. The only issue? The surrounding areas are all marked as extremely dangerous, which means this place is also going to get worse very soon. Standing still here waiting for help is the worst possible choice. Poor girl doesn't even know how they're supposed to escape this place all of a sudden. And also, what even is this quarantine thing? What are they going to do? Minjin is just thinking that even though their region is marked as low risk, there are still infected everywhere. He doesn't even want to imagine what those high-risk zones must be like. But he has no choice but to believe the flyer. If the northern areas are completely overrun, maybe heading south is their best shot. The only option, it seems, is to cross the Jihan River. And since the two main crossing points are listed as extremely dangerous, they'll have to take the eastern route. Along the way, they'll pass through that Sake city, and he wants to understand why it's labeled that way. Maybe there are military forces or survivors managing to hold things down there. She's impressed, saying she thought he was a complete loser, but he's a little bit smarter than she expected. He just ignores the comment and says they're heading out first thing in the morning. She, on the other hand, is freaking out, shouting that they should stay just a little longer. She's sure someone's going to come save them. But Minjin calls out to her, "If you want to die alone miserably in the basement, go ahead. Tomorrow morning I'm leaving the moment the sun rises." Damn, the poor girl got roasted. She puts a hand over her face and says she gets it. At the very least, they should gather wherever food is left and pack their bags. The sun rose the next day and the two were ready to leave. As they were walking out the door, Minjin turned and asked if she was sure she didn't want to check the hospital where her dad worked. If he was okay and working there, they could stop by. But she changes her expression and then says it's fine. It's better if they go right away. Her dad had already said he got her mom to a safe place, so she's sure they're okay. But of course, Minjin found those answers a bit odd. Already outside, the two were sneaking through alleyways. Our gentleman was walking ahead, giving her a thumbs up when it was safe to follow. Even though there were a lot of zombies around, they just had to move in total silence and stay unseen. In the middle of the city, buses were stopped everywhere, with blood smeared across their sides. Walking along the sidewalk, though, they were both surprised. This was way easier than they expected. Even Yina comments that maybe things weren't even that bad when she ran away the first time. Maybe she was just super tense. He explains that this is only happening because they're walking right where the sunlight is strongest. And the cursed girl is just like Donkey from Shrek, asking every 5 seconds if they're there yet. He keeps replying, "Nope, no, still no." And then she asks him to wait a bit. Her legs are hurting, and she wants to rest for 5 minutes. But our boy, man, just keeps walking. Says, "Yeah, sure, take 5 minutes, and while you're at it, make a little coffee." She curses at him, calls him a bastard, and says that when they finally get somewhere safe again, he's going to pay for all of this. Some more time passes, and there she is again, wanting to know how long until they get to Yanjiang. He says, "We're almost there." And she snaps back, saying he's already said that several times. As he kept walking, listening to her complaints, he gradually became more alert, more sensitive to danger. Until finally, after a few more minutes of walking, they come face to face with a barricade. Now it made sense why this region was safer than the others. She suddenly looked excited, saying that at least, yeah, here there probably aren't that many zombies. Maybe there were even some survivors. He starts climbing over to the other side, telling her to hurry up. She looks around and says this place already seems better. Doesn't look like there are many infected. She's telling him to look and asking if they can rest there for a bit. But he just tells her to come on already, saying they're sure on time. She starts complaining about her foot, but he tells her to stop exaggerating and climb up already. There she is, hand on her hip, looking furious. 2 minutes later, they're both on the other side, face to face. And out of nowhere, she starts crying. She was finally feeling a bit safer. Minjin stands there, not really getting what's going on. Then she apologizes. His expression changes, but not because of the apology. It's because right behind her, a horde of zombies was coming. When he tells her to look, they both see the creatures. He immediately grabs her arm and starts running. They move through the side street while she's asking why there are zombies here if this was supposed to be the safe neighborhood. That's when, right in the middle of the escape, a guy pulls a piece of furniture aside in front of them and calls out, telling them to get in quick. As soon as both of them pass through, Minjin goes to help the guy push the furniture back in place, and the man tells her to keep running. They count to 3, right as they're about to push the furniture into place. A zombie arrives and blocks it. Minjin calls out to the man, telling him to watch out, but the furniture falls right on top of the zombie. The guy takes off running, yelling for everyone to get out of there. Minjin turns to Yina and yells for her to run, and the two of them keep going through the alley. Up ahead, there's a pile of furniture blocking the street. It's at least 2 or 3 meters high. He says that unfortunately they're going to have to jump over it. But when they land on the other side, she twists her ankle. Minjin can't believe this is happening right now. And the problem is, right then, he hears something. To the left, some zombies are closing in. Now there's no way to run. Her ankle's messed up, and he remembers what she said. How frustrating it was to see the way he always acted. If someone like Songban was beating on him, he should have at least fought back once. Because if not, he'd never have the courage to defend himself. Seeing how he always ran away made her feel pathetic. And now, our boy finally pulls out a weapon, man. And the queen of K-pop is sitting there, in disbelief, asking what the hell he thinks he's doing. And standing face to face with the zombies, he says, "I'm gonna like." And do you remember that last chapter ended with the protagonist running away with Henina? That bitch, that damn woman who's always humiliating our protagonist, who also deserves to be humiliated. That bastard. They were about to be surrounded by zombies on 2 sides when he pulled out a knife and said, "If this is where I died." Then Henina's crystal anklet was on the ground. She was terrified, while Minjin told himself, "There's no way I'm going to die running away like some pathetic loser." I bet if he were the one who'd broken his ankle, Henina would have bolted and left him to die like an idiot. But then a motorcycle roars up nearby. Somebody shouts for him to duck. When Minjin glances back, that school kid shows up and smacks a zombie in the head with a bat. The guys shout, "Damn, that was sweet, bro." Another kid rolls up on a scooter and says, "Hold this." They start beating the thing, shouting, "Die, you son of a..." Meanwhile, the protagonist is still a little dazed. The crazy guy's having fun saying, "Man, watching its head explode was awesome. My god. Coming in on a bike and hitting it like that was sick." And he looks back and says, "Hey, Henina, what are you doing here?" Her expression with those full lips looks a bit confused. Then the man asks, "Who is that guy next to you?" Minjin, our protagonist who urgently needs the evolution bow, gets really scared realizing this is about to go wrong. Songban asks, "Whoa, Minjin, what are you doing with Henina, kid?" The protagonist has run into the last person he wanted to see. The name of Chapter 7 is Worse Than the Infected. Songban sees the knife. "Whoa, what are you gonna do with that? Don't tell me you plan to fight with a knife. I thought you were the biggest coward, but looks like I was wrong. Now tell me, how did you two meet? This pair is random. I never imagined seeing a couple like this." Henina God abandoned our protagonist, saying, "Honestly, if it weren't for you guys, I would died." Songban, "My god, I saved your life, Henina. Where are you headed? Come with us. We got a base, lots of allies, you know, lots of survivors. The place is safe, come on." Henina looks unsure, but the guys are saying there are adults too, that the place is very safe. This here is the villain's story. This is how you break a man's mind. Songban says, "Go on, Henina, get on my bike." She thanks him, but he notices she's hesitating. Suddenly, Songban turns and says, "Wait, should we even take her?" The man laughs and she looks a bit confused. Then he turns back, says it's nothing, and tells her to get on already. At that moment, she remembers the brown noser, the idiot, and asks, "But what about Minjin? How are we gonna take him?" Songban seems unsure and his friends say, "I don't know, leave him. That loser will only slow everyone down and we gotta save food." Henina is hesitating. "So Henina, what are you gonna do? Will you protect the boy, you bastard who deserves a punch in the mouth? I let the wrong thoughts invade my head, but she was humiliating my protagonist. Don't do that." Songban says, "Let's take him too. It's not like it's bad to have one more person." "Wow, but you're deciding for the kid," because he turns and says, "Forget it. I'm not coming." Songban is baffled and Minjin just replies, "I'll manage on my own because I have somewhere to go." Wow. Now she's like, "Wow, Jum Minjin." She didn't expect the boy to be confident enough to leave her behind, idiot. But life isn't easy and Songban tells him to stay put. "Hey, you trying to ignore me? You forget the last time you ignored me? You trying to die? This place has turned into hell. I'll kill you right now and nobody will care." Minjin stops there and glances back. At that moment, he reminds me of Faker from League of Legends. Songban says, "That's right, loser. You better stand still and obey." Henina answers, "Cut it out. Songban, are you crazy? You trying to kill Minjin? Not to mention you beat him last time, right? You guys really haven't changed at all." Then we see a flashback of Songban saying, "Bong Yu, if she comes here, don't you think it's the perfect chance for us to do that thing?" His friend says he saw her on Instagram, but is she really that pretty in person too? Songban says yes, but the friend wants to know why he's messing with her and mentions some other guy who did something to her, though it's hard to understand because some words are garbled. Minjin stays silent while Songban starts smiling at Henina and apologizes, saying he's been acting a little too wild. My god, I think Minjin knows something about whatever they want to do to Henina. And what does he say? "Songban, I'm sorry. I'll go with you guys. You know how when you're starving food tastes better? It's like that for me watching Minjin act like such filthy trash, a terrible, worst ever protagonist, but hoping that when he gets confident it'll be worth it. You get me? It'll be even better. We keep going with the story." Songban says that now the kid understands that trying to leave this neighborhood is suicide. First, they head to the hideout. Tomorrow, if the kid wants, he'll give him a ride to wherever he's heading. The scene then shifts to a bridge that Songban says Minjin knows. Minjin remembers, this was where he used to be taken whenever the poor guy got beaten. As soon as they enter, the men block the path and the protagonist goes to talk to Henina. He tells her, "Henina, I don't think it's a good idea for us to hang around these men. We should look for a good chance to get out of here." She doesn't understand and asks, "What are you talking about?" He explains, "I have a bad feeling these men are going to try something. This isn't right." Henina, rich and lost in the world, says, "Don't worry. These guys are all losers. And Songban is an idiot. He's been my lackey since high school. If he tries anything against you, I'll cover you. Besides, they said there are other survivors and adults here." Minjin replies, "Are you really stupid enough to believe this man 100%? You might know them from school as classmates, but I know who they are better than anyone. It's ridiculous to think Songban is just that classmate you see." Henina looks a little scared. Then she calls the man over and says, "So, we're here, right? We're thinking of heading back. I heard my relatives are in a warehouse in Sulpyeong City. I plan to go there. If we don't leave today, it'll be too late, so we're going now." Songban stops her, "But where are you going? Is there a base in Sulpyeong? As far as I know, that place was completely destroyed. Also, why risk going with that loser Minjin? But whatever. If you want to go, rest here tonight, and in the morning we'll go." Henina, full lips as pretty as she is dumb, is surprised and says it's urgent. So they're leaving now. She calls Minjin and says, "We're leaving." Then wow, the man slams the bat down in front of them. Songban tells Henina, I told you, you go with us tomorrow. Or is there something going on between you and Minjin? What's up with you two suddenly being so close? Suddenly, she gets pale and turns, wanting to know what he's doing. She clenches her fists and says she warned them. They're leaving. Minjin knew the obvious happened. To avoid things escalating, at least our coward isn't stupid. He says, forget it. Let's just talk to the guys. Besides, we'll go with them tomorrow. And the sun's already setting. Henina, however, is starting to face the reality of this world. They cross to the other side of the bridge and find a wrecked construction site. Minjin realizes, yeah, this is the place. At least they put up a lot of barricades to keep the infected out. It looks reinforced, even if everything's clearly improvised. But after Songban stopped him from leaving, Minjin notices that Henina looks shaken. He pats her on the shoulder and tells her not to worry, that he won't leave her side. My god, what a bootlicker. This woman was humiliating you just 2 chapters ago. But fine, stay with me here, keep the mindset. The hungrier you are, the better the food tastes. Then something startles Henina, and when she looks to the side, there's a zombie in the distance staring right at her. Songban tells her to stop freaking out so much that she needs to relax. There's no way those zombies will get through here. But Minjin finds it strange, quite the opposite. It looks like the whole place could collapse any moment. Their base is completely surrounded by zombies on all sides. The protagonist thinks it's madness. Who builds a base in a place like this? And Songban says all they need to do is climb the stairs and they'll reach the base. Minjin realizes that's how they're keeping the infected from getting in. They head up to the 2nd floor while Songban calls out to Heijin, saying he brought people with him. In the background, there's a fat guy saying, what's this? New visitors? Songban answers, yeah, they're from my class. You've heard of her, right? It's Henina. The fat man immediately lights up. Henina, nice to meet you. Name's Moonhead. Bong Yu. 19 years old. I run several businesses around here. So why didn't you accept my friend request on Instagram? Yeah. Henina, you'll miss the day you were in that room with Minjin. Feeling uncomfortable, she says she didn't notice and wonders who this pig-headed guy is. Bong Yu stands up, telling her to relax, that this place is really safe. She says she understands, but she's heard that the Gangnam region is about to be sealed off, so staying here is risky. Bong Yu replies that she's late. Roads have already been blocked, and her only chance of surviving now is to wait for rescue. But it's fine, they've got everything they need. Some tables, a place to cook, gas, everything well barricaded. Minjin is surprised these men actually managed to organize themselves this well, but he notices a group in a corner who don't seem too happy. Maybe these men stole the base from someone else. The leader then asks if Songban found anything, and Songban replies he was checking a store when he ran into them, so he didn't get the chance. Bong Yu says that's fine. Bringing a girl is even better than bringing food. Now that's a win for the team. That idiot finally realizes feminism's over now. Minjin was right. She'd been tricked by Songban, who brought her here, apparently for this man. She grabs his shoulder and says, Songban, we need to talk. Off to the side, she says, enough, stop pretending. Why won't you let me leave? I didn't know things would be like this. I hate places like this, especially with your disgusting friends around. I'm sorry, but I can't stay here like this. And I don't believe the river's blocked. I'm going to try crossing. Anyway, that's it. I'm leaving. But he grabs her arm and shouts, you bitch. You think you're just gonna leave like that? This isn't the old world where you could get whatever you wanted. And then Minjin, in a moment like this, tries to act all righteous, stammering as he says, I'll let her go. Songban looks confused and says, no way, the damn Minjin's lost his mind. The protagonist could have been smarter, grab the knife, stab him in the gut, and run. The title of Chapter 8 is Kill Everyone Except Henina. Then Songban asks the protagonist, what are you gonna do if I don't stop? You gonna attack me with that knife or something? He should, but that's not what happens. The guy keeps swearing, demanding to know why Minjin froze. Go on, pull that knife, coward. Then Bong Yu shows up. What's going on? Songban explains, nothing. Henina just thinks this place is a little bad since it's open air. There's nowhere proper to sleep. The fat man says, don't worry, she'll sleep inside the tent. Songban adds, that's right, but Minjin's got a knife and doesn't want to hand it over. Right away, the men shout, you dumb bastard, give it up. You out of your mind? You want to die? The worst thing for Minjin would be losing his weapon, but there's no way he can take on 5 guys at once, so handing it over is his only option. One guy with weird hair says he better learn to listen. Bong Yu is the boss and Songban's his second. That was the first warning. The second one means death. At that point, Bong Yu throws an arm over Henina and says she must be exhausted. How about some rest in the tent? But she's startled, poor thing. The fat man looks surprised as she flinched and asks if she really reacted like that. She apologizes, stating she was just caught off guard, she's on edge. He tells her to take a look at the tent. It's like a luxury camp in the apocalypse. You can go relax there. Now Henina realizes this persistent fat guy is a psychopath. She needs to buy time somehow. So she says actually her biggest problem is hunger. Do you have anything to eat? The men say they managed to loot a butcher shop while Minjin just watches. This is the worst situation, no police, total lawlessness. The men drape their arms over Henina, saying how cute she is. Minjin realizes that to Henina, these men are more dangerous than any infected, and the fat pig won't leave her side for a second. She's in danger. He needs to find a way for them to escape here and now. The easiest plan would be to lure the zombies over, but that could put other survivors at risk. And there's no trusting those 3 older men either. Maybe once everyone's asleep, they can sneak out. But what if those bastards try something with Henina? It's really going to be hard to fix this situation on the 2nd floor. A fancy meal is served, and the fat guy sits down saying he'll stay beside the princess. She yells that he smells like a pig, and the fat man looks confused. She quickly says, "No, I mean, the smell of that pork you're cooking is just really strong." Then someone calls the protagonist over and tells him to take a plate to the older men. He notices right away that based on the portions, those men won't eat well. He basically got the same amount that they'd have to share. He brings over the plates and says, "I brought your food," and the old man thanks him. Later that night, with the campfire burning, the protagonist and Henina are sitting off to the side when someone calls her. Of course, it's the fat man. "Hey, Henina." Staring off into the distance, "Come hang out with us." She says she doesn't want to, but he insists it's time to sleep. She tells him it's fine, she'll stay there quietly, and if she falls asleep, she'll just sleep outside. Her plan is to wait until everyone's asleep and then escape. But then Bong Yu stands up and says, "You're acting way too cold. If I keep getting treated like this, what will people think of me?" And surprisingly, Songban steps in to defend her. "That's enough, Bong Yu." But the fat guy didn't like that one bit. "Look at you, Songban, you've lost it too." "Hey, fatso, didn't you hear what I said? Get back." Then Bong Yu asks if that son of a gun has lost his mind. Looks like he's asking to get shot in the head. Songban starts laughing like a maniac and says he's had enough. Ever since he got trapped with Bong Yu, he's been wanting to kill him. He tells the trash to go to hell, because now he's the boss. The man clenches his fat hand into a fist and says he's gonna end him right now. But before he can move, Songban vanishes and suddenly has him in a chokehold, yelling that this useless pig is going to die right now. The blonde guy shouts, asking if Songban's gone crazy, but gets hit in the skull with a bat. While Songban keeps Bong Yu pinned, he orders his friend to finish the other man off. The protagonist and Henina are both confused, trying to understand what's going on. The men are shouting, the old folks are getting up. Right then, Minjin spots his chance. He whispers to her that this is the moment. The two of them take off running while the rest of the survivors turn toward them. But Songban yells for his men to grab that girl, and in an instant one of them throws his arm around her. When Minjin looks back, she's already restrained. The man warns him to stand still if he doesn't want to see her die. But damn, she's brave, she bites his arm hard. And while the man screams in pain, she breaks free and starts running. Then that psycho charges in, trying to stab her from behind, aiming straight for her ribs. But then, like some Marvel hero, the protagonist blocks the attack. The man demands to know what the hell this bastard thinks he's doing. He kicks Minjin in the stomach, sending him flying backward as the bloody knife clatters to the ground. Henina covers her face in horror, trying to see what happened. And oh my god, the protagonist really took a knife to the stomach. Yeah, it'd be asking too much for him to win against everyone right now. The poor guy is getting pummeled on the floor while Henina cries. Then someone grabs her arm. It's Songban, finally revealing his true face. He tells her they've known each other since high school, but she's always acted like she's above him. He had everything she could wanted, unlike those losers. His family had money, he had a good body, but just because her family had a bit more, she thought she could keep rejecting him. He gives her this psychotic grin and says that tonight, she's not escaping. One of the old men tries to speak up. "Kid, you can't." But Songban kicks him in the stomach, sending him to the ground gasping. Then he says, "Old man, I warned you last time. If you acted like the boss again, there wouldn't be another chance. Enough." He grabs him by the jacket and throws him down. Henina screams as the man hits the asphalt below and zombies start to close in. The other elders shout, asking what Songban's doing. This guy's completely lost it. But Songban gives a new order. Take out the old ones too. His friends hesitate. "What do you mean?" Then he turns and says it straight. "Throw everyone down, except Henina." She rushes to Minjin, trying to wake him up and see if he's okay. But it's too late. Songban appears behind her and asks where she thinks she's going. "Out there's hell, so now you're staying with me." He starts dragging her away as the others move in to grab Minjin, saying it looks like his time's up. They grab him by his pants and jacket, mocking him. This is the price of being a pathetic loser. They're just about to throw him off, counting down. 1, 2. But then Minjin grabs onto one of their jackets. The man feels something strange, and before he realizes it, he's falling too, right along with Minjin. How's the protagonist gonna get out of this one? I have no clue. But Songban turns around, startled, hearing his friends scream. Another guy in a white jacket is shouting Sun Yun's name, while Songban demands to know how that idiot managed to pull something like this off. Down below, someone's screaming beside them as Sun Yun struggles to his feet, groaning in pain. He looks down and sees his foot is completely twisted. The protagonist, though, is getting up. Then the guy grabs his leg and says, "Minjin, where do you think you're going? My foot broke because of you." But it's too late because another zombie was coming up from behind, and apparently he gets eaten. From above, the guy in the white jacket asks what they're going to do. Songban says there's no turning back now, forget that bastard. At that moment, Henina sees her chance and bolts like Usain Bolt. Songban chases after her, but the girl starts doing parkour, jumping from one spot to another. Songban catches up from behind and orders the bitch to stop, yelling that she's got some nerve trying to run from him. She completely ignores him and runs across a plank while he warns her she'll soon realize the place is swarming with zombies and she'll get killed. He tells her to get ready because when he catches her, things are going to be worse. She summons her courage, leaps, and manages to reach the other side of the raised platform. Songban follows, swearing she's gone crazy. Of course, he's much heavier. When he tries to step onto the same plank, the shelf wobbles and he falls flat on his face like an idiot. Henina stares and realizes her chance has come. She starts screaming, calling all the zombies over and shouting that there's a useless idiot who deserves to die. Songban watches, saying she's trying to make his life harder. He vows that when he finds her, she'll be dead. But apparently not right then. He looks to the side and sees two zombies running at him, so he has to run. Meanwhile, Henina is calling out, "Where's Minjin? Please, I hope he's safe." Who would have thought? Look, I'm not forgiving her yet. She better do a lot more for my protagonist. None of you are getting off easy. Literally save him, be a decent person. The protagonist is moving along, injured and with a cut in his stomach. Henina sees him and breathes a sigh of relief that he's alive. He can barely speak. She tells him to try climbing up, and he grabs a pipe, clambers onto the air conditioner while she urges him on. Her hand reaches out, she grabs him, throws herself back and pulls him up. She asks how his wounds are. Were you bitten? What happened? He explains he's a little dizzy, but at least he wasn't bitten. Then the guy in the white shirt appears, calling for those bastards and asking where Songban is. The two of them get up and say they need to hurry and get out of there. They prepare to jump. Our protagonist says it's better if she goes on alone, but she goes with him and they land like idiots. She asks if he's okay and helps him to his feet, saying they'll have to follow that path. They go down a dark alley and it's awful. You can hear zombies screaming everywhere. At night, they're much more active. The protagonist tells Henina that if any infected spots them, she'll have to run on her own. She asks what he's talking about. We'll find somewhere safe. I'll save you no matter what happens. Okay, all right, I'll cut him some slack. They follow a quiet alley with no smell, no zombie sounds, and under a light post they find something strange. An open door with a light on. They go inside. Henina, a little unsure, looks around. She doesn't sense anyone. There really seems to be no one there. She sets Minjin down in the middle of the room and drops him like the trash he is. She asks if he's okay and tells him to recover. Don't give me those tears. You're the one who put my protagonist Minjin in this mess. Still, she admits she was wrong. If it hadn't been for her, he might have stayed in his house. She's the one who drew the infected to them and put them in danger. Besides that, it was also because of her that they ended up in that place, and now they're stuck there. She admits it was her fault too, that he used to suffer back in school. She's begging him to recover, but suddenly she hears a noise behind her. When she turns around, a shadow is approaching. She wonders who's coming closer. Step by step, it looks like a man carrying a big backpack, just like the ones from PUBG, and in fact, it's one of the old men. Startled, he says, "What? A human?" Someone in the back replies, "Damn, that scared me." Then the man asks, "Wait, aren't you the same people from before?" And that's when we realize at that moment, they were the ones running down the street earlier, and that old man had helped them. The man is surprised, saying, "Wow, you two actually made it out alive?" Henina says it's good to see that they're safe too, but they wanted to know if the boy's hurt or bleeding. It's better to reveal right away if he was bitten or infected so they don't take any risks. She quickly explains that it's not that. He was stabbed and needs help because he's losing a lot of blood. The old man on the left panics and asks his friend if he's got a med kit, and the friend nods. They really are the kings of PUBG. She starts to thank them, and I hear the word thank cut off midway. That's when someone covers her mouth. And then a voice says, "Man, I got lucky." Wait, what the hell? It's like Negan from The Walking Dead, holding a bat covered in bloody nails. Suddenly, the man tells her to stop. Wait, maybe he actually tried to cover her mouth so she wouldn't scream and attract attention. But then this new guy shows up, saying they got 3 seconds to disappear, and they better leave the girl behind. The old man in front asks what they're supposed to do about that bastard, and the friend in the back says it's better to just kill him. I'm so confused. I can't tell who's the villain, who's the ally, but what I do know is that the man charges in with full force. The other one drops the bat and pulls out a knife. The first swings and misses, then damn, the other guy's a pro. He slashes his neck in an instant. Henina screams in terror, and the look on her face. She looks absolutely terrified. The man behind her tells the bastard to stay still. Then with the dagger ready in his hand, he starts to speak, but before he can finish, a knife goes straight into his head. And look who it is, Kang Hakyo. You remember him, right? The man from North Korea from the beginning. No way. It can't be that this guy's a scumbag too. I still remember making that joke about his name. Hakyo, like he's got hacks. Sometime later, in another room, there are med kits on the table, and it looks like they managed to patch up our protagonist. Hakyo says he'll be fine. It seems like he passed out more from the trauma and shock than from blood loss, so he just needs some rest. Henina thanks him but asks how he got so good at fighting, and how he knew how to stitch the boy up so well. He says he picked up a few things here and there, clearly hiding the full story. She says it doesn't make sense. He's way too skilled for someone who just learned by chance. He ignores the question and says what really matters is that he wants to know, what are you two doing here? You must know this is one of the most dangerous districts, right? Henina answers, yeah, we saw all those posters the helicopter dropped. One of the safe zones was in Yongshin, so that's where we're heading. But we got captured by Songban's gang. Hachiel asks if she means that Songban from the abandoned construction site. She's surprised he knows about it. She explains, we were running from that place. Everyone was being bitten. It was total chaos. Songban was being chased by infected too, but we didn't see what happened to him. Hachiel already seems to understand. Maybe that guy is still alive. She then says, also that rumor that Yongshin is safe, it's false. Aside from those who escaped Seoul at the very beginning, the rest are left to die. This place was pretty organized until an incident a few days ago, but now it's over. Unfortunately, the number of infected is rising again, and the humans who are left are more dangerous than the creatures. It's hard to see a young woman like you walking the streets safely anymore. You really need to be careful moving around without protection. You never know what will happen, so be extremely cautious. Not just Yongshin, the whole Gangbuk area has turned into anarchy. The truth is, all the districts of Seoul will eventually fall. Henina says she understands, then asks, so why are you here, Hachiel? He pauses for a moment and answers that he has his reasons, as if he thinks you're the protagonist expecting a dramatic secret. Then he explains, I'm planning to cross to Jangan first thing tomorrow morning. She looks surprised and says, you've seen the news, right? About Gangbuk being sealed off. And if I'm not mistaken, that leaflet said everything's being shut down today. Hachiel says things are worse than she imagines. He doesn't know whether the plan was to close Gangbuk later, but the whole bridge is already blocked. No one can cross the Han River Bridge anymore. You can't get to the bridge and jump over it because it's crawling with infected. When this whole mess started, of course, the government began sealing off the hotspots to stop the spread, and that's why they're isolated now. She asks, how do you know all this? He explains, I heard it directly from survivors who were on those bridges. They usually share me pictures, so I'm sure it's reliable information. She looks a little devastated. Everything he said is true, but he reveals that, unfortunately, they still have to find a way out. They need a boat, a raft, something to get them to the other side. At the same time, they have to avoid all the infected. Henina asks, are you sure Jangan is safe? Last I heard, infected were popping up all over the country. Hachiel says, obviously there's no place that's 100% safe anymore, but my sister was taken to a warehouse in Janghan, so I have to get to that place no matter what. Henina wants to know why they got separated. He falls silent again and starts flashing back. On the day everything began, he, his uncle, and his sister went to a shelter in the area. Not long after, the military came and said they'd relocate some survivors, since Gangbuk had become too dangerous. They prioritized children and the elderly, so he had no choice but to stay behind. Hachiel asks where they thought they were taking his sister, and the soldiers said they were sending people to the Janghan warehouse. He waited for the second wave, but the military never returned. She asked about his uncle. What happened? The usual classic answer, an infected got into the warehouse hiding inside, and a bunch of people got bitten. His uncle tried to escape, but couldn't. Hachiel seems to understand now. Maybe that guy is still alive. Then he stands up and says, the first thing I'm doing tomorrow is leaving. One more day of delay could be deadly. She asks, wait, are you leaving at dawn? Can you take us with you? We want to go to Janghan too. Hachiel replies, it's way too risky. From my experience, moving with more than 2 people is dangerous and unpredictable things happen. At least one of us will end up dead. Also, Minjin needs at least a full day to recover. Henina clasps her hands together and pleads. Minjin's mother is in Janghan. They have to reach that place somehow. The two of them have no idea what they're doing, but they have to escape this place. She's begging, crying, while Hachiel just stares, saying Henina really has changed. She looks confused. He says, we were in the same class, but I never really knew you. You don't seem anything like the Henina from school. I don't know if that was a compliment or an insult, but after saying that, he turns away, telling her they'll talk in the morning when the sun rises and Minjin wakes up. Tell me, what do you all think of Henina so far? Has she made up for what she did to our protagonist, or does she still need to do more? Nothing sexual, only honest payback. You get it? With that, Hachiel leaves. The sun rises and she's slumped on the couch, waking up looking rough, totally disheveled. Hachiel comes over and asks this fool, when you escaped the construction site, did you see what happened to Park Songbin? What went down? She says she doesn't really know what happened, and he answers, all right then, I'll go check. She looks confused. What do you mean? He explains they had some motorcycles and skateboards. If they're still around, we can use them to move faster. She protests, you can't just go there. It's covered in barricades, everything's probably destroyed, and it's crawling with infected. But Hachiel laughs and says, it's 300 meters from here to that construction site. When I escaped North Korea with my sister, I walked 10,000 kilometers and I was only 12 years old. My God, they didn't have money to pay someone to guide them or sneak them onto a truck. They just followed the advice of an uncle who had already escaped to South Korea. They not only had to travel that whole way, but also avoid being caught by the authorities, hiding from the eyes of the security forces, crossing all of China without help. They walked all the way to Thailand, then circled back through everything just to reach South Korea. They basically traveled halfway around the world just to end up at their neighbor's house. But then again, crossing that fence between neighbors literally means gunfire. He grabs the door handle and tells her, so don't worry. Henina is totally baffled. Out of nowhere, the man just shared his life story with her. Then Hachiel climbs over the wall, throwing his arm over the top and dropping down the other side. It's time to see for himself whether that bastard Songban is alive or dead. Finally, someone competent, a character who can actually solve problems, since our Minjin just ends up peeing himself. But honestly, you can't even compare them. One spent all day playing on his PC, and the other escaped North Korea on foot for 10,000 kilometers. How could you even put them side by side? It's just not fair. Our protagonist has no experience. He's lying there with that potato-shaped head of his. Meanwhile, Henina is watching over him. If she's in love, she might as well admit it. She says, "You're awake, Minjin." He looks uneasy. "Where am I now?" "We're at Hachiel's place. He took care of you." The protagonist frowns. "Wait, Kang Hachiel? The guy from our class?" She nods. "Yeah, we ran into him after escaping the construction site." The protagonist says he understands, but the problem is he doesn't remember anything after they jumped from the second floor. The last thing he recalls is them wandering through some alleys or something like that. Then she takes his hand and says, "I'm so relieved. My God, I was terrified you were going to die." The protagonist thinks she's lost it. Look at this. What a romantic scene. His heart's pounding, feels good. And then, of course, he pushes her away. It was getting way too nice. And she says, "Well, anyway, who told you to take a knife to the stomach from me, you idiot? Of course I'm grateful that you saved me, but that was really reckless. You could have ended up dead. You made me worry." The protagonist just scratches his face and apologizes. She tells him to stop saying sorry. He just needs to say thank you. Actually, she's the one thanking him. It's just that he doesn't realize how worried she was or how hard it was to get him all the way here. Her face turns red. What's happening? Did she put on makeup or something? She adds, "Besides, Hachiel said you should rest for a full day. So it's better if we relax today and see what we can do tomorrow." He starts getting up saying, "Are you sure? If I remember right, Gangbook is about to be closed off. We don't have time to sit around." But as soon as he tries to stand, he feels sharp pain in his abdomen. She scolds him, telling him to stop being an idiot and quit trying to move. A moment later, someone arrives at the door. From outside, Hachiel says it's him and tells them to open up. He drops his backpack on the floor and says, "This one's yours, right? But one you always carry to school." Wow, talk about photographic memory. The protagonist says, "Yeah, that's mine." Hachiel explains, "I found it on the second floor of the construction site. It had your clothes and stuff, so I figured you'd want it. Plus, there was a lot of emergency food, so I brought some." The protagonist feels genuinely happy seeing his bag again, and it was one of the few things his mother had bought for him. He doesn't have many things that came from her. On top of that, Hachiel found his glasses. "My glasses," he says relieved. Then he adds, "Dude, Henina told me you took care of me. You're amazing." Hachiel asks, "How are you feeling?" He says he's still a bit dizzy, but fine. Then Henina asks what he saw at the construction zone. "And what about Songban?" Hachiel says, "Yeah, he checked." And just as expected, Songban wasn't there. The other three idiots, the whole group except that man, had been infected. On top of that, their motorcycle was gone, probably because Songban took it. Strangely, the scooter they had was completely smashed. Henina immediately understands they might run into that man again. Wow. Hachiel steps up saying, "I might lose a fight, but I don't lose when it comes to killing. When it's life or death." He's ready. Then he says that's enough. They'll do exactly what he said yesterday. He's planning to escape toward Gangbook, and he wants to know if they think they can follow him. From that slightly higher angle, Henina shows she's got potential. The protagonist says, "Of course we can, we'll make it for sure." She snaps back, "You can't even stand up properly." Hachiel agrees, "She's right, man. You can barely move." The protagonist insists, "No, I'm fine. But things could get worse tomorrow." Hachiel tells him not to rush. Besides, they need a solid plan before leaving. If they act too fast, they'll only bring trouble. Then he says, "I thought it through, and there's only one way we can cross the Han River. We'll have to go through Line 5 in the Sompa area." Minjin immediately reacts, "Wait, isn't that the underground region?" Henina agrees it sounds insane. "If we go near the subway, there will be tons of people, too much population density, there will be hordes of infected." Hachiel nods. "Yeah, but Line 5 has doors on all platforms. Once we pass through them, the tunnels won't have many infected. The real problem is reaching that area and getting through the doors. Plus, there are probably others who had the same idea, or maybe the government already blocked off Line 5. Still, it's worth checking. The issue is that the fastest route to that station goes through Jangin, and as we know, it's far, especially if we have to cross through the Jangham neighborhood, which has become extremely dangerous." After a while, he writes on the board, "Don't run. That's the most important survival rule he can think of. Gangbook has already been sealed off, so it's better not to move too fast or push themselves too hard. The goal is to find a safe place, stay there for a few days, recover, and then reassess the situation calmly. No rushing." Second rule, unless they're relocating to a new area, they should always move in groups of 1 or 2, never 3. Avoid going out as a trio whenever possible. And lastly, if a life or death situation comes, never sacrifice yourself for someone else. For example, if you're certain you can survive by running away, don't turn back and risk your life, even if it's for Hachiel himself. When it comes to that point, everyone just needs to do whatever they can to survive. Never sacrifice your life for another person. He made it clear. But honestly, I can't shake the feeling. Tell me if you think the same, that Hachiel is going to end up trying to save someone and dying for it. It just feels like the most obvious outcome, even if it's the wrong one. When it's time to leave, he calls out to Minjin and says that the bat will be his weapon. Minjin thinks it looks terrifying and disgusting, and Hachiel says that's the point. It's not only for hitting the infected, but also for intimidating people who see him carrying something like that. Just holding it will make others think twice before messing with him. Besides, he reminds Minjin that zombies attack to kill, so he has to swing with everything he's got. That bat can pierce a heart or crush a skull if you hit hard enough. Minjin says he understands while thinking this guy's insane. The plan's set, and it's time to move. The trio heads out into the streets. Minjin wonders if killing all the infected is really the right thing to do. On one of the walls, someone had written, "Don't kill the infected." No, don't listen to that. If you don't kill them, you die. The protagonist knows these people used to have families. If they kill all of them, does that make him a murderer too? Well, yes, but better to be a living murderer than a dead innocent. Strangely, the walls are covered in phrases like, "Don't kill the infected," and "You'll become a killer." Please, who's even judging people now? Hachiel says, "Minjin, are you seriously having pointless thoughts right now? You better remember this is life or death. If you want to survive, stay sharp. Any hesitation will get you killed." They're still arguing when suddenly Henina stops and tells them to wait. Should they really be going that way? She's got a bad feeling there will be lots of infected ahead. Hachiel asks how she knows that. She says she can't really explain it, but there's a smell in the air, a strange stench. Every time she smelled it, it's meant there are a lot of infected nearby and this street reeks of it. Hachiel's surprised. This woman actually has a zombie radar in her nose. How is she doing that? Locating them like that? She says she has no idea. She doesn't even know exactly where they are, just that there are a lot of them up ahead. Minjin realizes that from the very beginning, she's always been sensitive to smells. Maybe that's even how she managed to find his house that time. Hachiel says he'll check and tells the two of them to stay put for now. He turns the corner and sees dozens of zombies shuffling around. He heads back and says that Henina might really be able to sense the infected. He tells them, "You're right, we can't go that way." Then Minjin says, "Wait, look up there. On top of that building, is that a soldier?" Hachiel looks up, startled, then suddenly runs ahead, telling them to follow him. They move through the building into an area that thankfully has no infected. He pulls out binoculars, looks through them, and confirms that there are indeed 3 soldiers up there, and all of them are infected. But one of the soldiers was carrying a rifle. Minjin gets worried and asks, "You're not thinking of going for that rifle, are you? There are 3 infected, and it would be really hard to take the gun off that soldier. Plus, the whole building looks packed on the other floors. We don't even know how to use a rifle, and it would draw a ton of attention." Hachiel cuts in and says, "We need that, and we're taking it." In this little trio, we've got Henina, who can sniff out monsters, Hachiel, who's incredible, and the protagonist, who's useless garbage. Chapter 12, a necessary weapon. Henina is shocked too. Hachiel, are you crazy? Minjin just explained, how are we supposed to deal with 3 infected in that tight space? Also, the rifle is stuck to the soldier's chest, meaning the only way to get it is to kill them. Minjin, though he refused at first, starts thinking. He remembers himself playing PUBG. He says he's got a weird feeling he can't explain. Could he become king of aim? Jesus. Then he says that sooner or later they'll need that rifle. Suddenly he turns and says, "That's it. Let's get that weapon." Henina's a little confused. "You guys are insane. Are you forgetting how hard it'll be to get there? And how are we supposed to fight those infected?" Hachiel says, "Okay, the 2 of us will go and you hide here." She immediately changes her mind. She doesn't want to be left alone and asks how she can help. He explains the place is really cramped. 3 people trying to squeeze down the corridor might be more dangerous than helpful. It's better for her to stay and hold the packs because you can't bring everything into a fight. Henina wants to refuse, saying being alone is scarier. But then, at the bottom of the building, Hachiel and the protagonist start moving. He says it'll climb the outside stairs because it looks like the easiest route to reach the top. And indeed, it is the easiest way. They're already at the top of the stairs, looking down at the trio. Hachiel turns and says, as expected, there are 3 infected. The bad part is they're all close together, so killing them one by one won't be easy. Minjin says, Henina said you threw a perfect knife. Can you do that? Hachiel says he can try, but he won't kill them instantly. The only thing he can promise is that they need to finish this within 10 seconds. The protagonist is confused. How are we going to do that? Hachiel answers, of course, he can't do it alone. He'll need the kid's help. He'll jump in front to take out the first, and the protagonist has to go after the other 2 and finish one with the nail-studded bat. Minjin asks, what if something goes wrong? Hachiel says it's simple, he just can't freeze. If he kills one, it's sorted. The protagonist says he'll try, and the man stands up and says, Minjin, I know this is hard for you, but survival comes first. Right now, getting that gun is the most important thing if we want to stay alive. The protagonist agrees. He knows the man's right. Ever since that guy fell off the roof, he's noticed those zombies aren't normal. So the 3 zombies are standing there and Hachiel suddenly drops down and the protagonist moves to the side. Hachiel throws himself forward, drawing the zombie's attention, and charges at the first one. He knows he needs a precise, clean strike to finish it on the first hit. But damn, he stumbles. No, the zombie trips, and because of that, He misses the first attack like an idiot while the other infected move in. The plan shifts instantly. He'll have to kill the second with that strike, but the blow only slices the neck. It didn't go in deep enough. The creature lunges at him while the third one moves in, but Minjin comes from behind and hits it in the back of the neck. My god, it's not strong enough, and the zombie turns around screaming. The protagonist yells for it to get away while Haxiel realizes things just got bad. The two infected close in, but he manages to block one bite by jamming his arm under the creature's mouth. He knows he needs to kill the one with the rifle first, so he slashes at its neck, and both of them fall to the ground, the knife flying out of his hand. The other zombie comes in from the side as Minjin struggles to keep it from biting him. In that instant, Haxiel realizes he'll have to pray this works. He just hopes there are at least 2 bullets left in the rifle. The first shot rings out, and the zombie next to them drops. Haxiel looks at our protagonist, who's holding off the other creature, and Minjin shouts, "Haxiel, this one's too strong. Help me." Haxiel aims and says, "You're not half bad, Minjin." The game is on. Another shot. Henina, who's been counting the shots, realizes maybe things actually worked out. She's watching through binoculars and sees them standing and talking. They seem safe for now. Minjin admits, "I'm sorry, I wasn't much help." But Haxiel says that's exactly why he brought him, to distract one of them, and he did his part. Still, it's clear he'll have to practice those attacks. Minjin then asks, "That shot you made was amazing. How'd you fire from that weird position? Have you practiced before?" Haxiel, sounding suspiciously casual, says, "Maybe once or twice when I was 12. It's been a long time." Yeah, right? The guy's obviously lying. The protagonist's head was right next to the creature's, and he hit a perfect shot in one try. Haxiel pulls out the magazine and starts counting the bullets while the protagonist glances around, catching the scent of more creatures nearby. They decide to search the zombie's uniform for spare ammo while Henina grows anxious. The two have been gone a while. Where are they? She wonders if they're okay and heads downstairs to check if they're coming back. But halfway down, she stops. Through the window, she sees a swarm of infected heading straight toward them. Now she doesn't know what to do. Should she stay and wait or go down to try to help? Then she notices something terrifying. A zombie staring right at her and smiling? What the hell? Immediately she hides, confused, wondering if the zombie really smiled. The title of Chapter 13 flashes, Special Infected. The empty hallway stretches out until the creature appears, climbing upward with a strange growl. Henina mutters to herself that it's impossible. She's sure she locked the entrance after they left. She blocked everything. But behind the door, there's noise, and she realizes whatever it is, it got inside. But how could an infected behave like that? There it is, slowly climbing the stairs. Oh god, and she's just standing there in the room. Seriously? 16 IQ. Grab a weapon. There's literally a pipe right there on the floor. Pick it up, hit it in the head, hide somewhere, but no, she freezes. The zombie turns toward her, inching closer. She shuts her eyes, covers her mouth, but then someone slices the creature's neck open. Blood splatters across her face, and Haxiel asks if she's okay. A little later, he's puzzled. What do you mean the infected looked at you and smiled? She insists it's true. It felt like she was looking at someone who wasn't infected. She says she'd met a creepy old man once before who acted exactly the same way. It gave her the same feeling. Haxiel asks if she's sure because judging by the body, that was definitely an infected. And besides, they're positive they sealed the exit before leaving. So somehow, the creature broke through the barricade. Maybe someone deliberately did it, because as far as they know, infected act purely on instinct. They're not really sure what it could be when Minjin says, "It's just a guess, but maybe some of the infected are special, or over time, they start changing. It might reach a point where they can climb stairs, jump, maybe even plan attacks on survivors. Not just in intelligence, their bodies could evolve too, like the kind of zombie with heightened natural instincts." Haxiel asks why he thinks that. Minjin replies that it's just a feeling, not something he's certain about, but they'll probably think what he's about to say is ridiculous. These infected, they're a lot like the ones from the game I was playing. I've been really focused on it lately, to be honest, so maybe it's just my imagination. I don't know. Haxiel says it's an interesting thought, even though it sounds unbelievable. He tells him to stay grounded. Henina interrupts, "Oh my god, Minjin, are you saying the game came into our world?" He laughs and tells her to forget it. Haxiel shrugs. Either way, it doesn't matter. This is the worst epidemic in human history, and we need to survive. The protagonist then points out that zombie's blood splashed on you, and you didn't get infected. Haxiel explains that zombie blood has splattered on him countless times. Touching it isn't a problem. The infection clearly spreads through bites. The good news is they've got a rifle with 15 bullets, 2 military knives, and even a compass. He hands one of the knives to Minjin, saying, "I've still got my folding one, so you take this. And here, Henina, this one's for you." She hesitates. "You actually want me to carry a knife?" He says, "You're going to have to defend yourself, girl. If something like that happens again, what will you do? Depend on us every time? Besides, both of you need to learn how to use the rifle soon. If I died, Minjin will have to use it. And there could be a situation where Henina is the only one who can shoot." The group goes quiet, and Minjin tells him not to jinx it. He says, "Everyone who says stuff like that in stories ends up dying, Haxiel. That means you're next." But Haxiel does the classic thing and answers, "No one's dying. I'll survive no matter what. I just want us to be ready." Translation: He's totally the one who's going to die while the others keep the story going. The protagonist says, anyway, Hachiel's right. I need to practice. Besides, I've always wanted to fire a real gun. Only problem, he adds, is that we can't waste bullets. We don't have many. He then asks, Henina, do you want to try shooting too? Suddenly, she steps back from him. She says she doesn't know and tells him not to come any closer. What the hell? Did she lose it? He's confused, trying to understand what's wrong, and she insists she just wants to stay away from him. Minjin's baffled, she's acting totally strange. The protagonist wonders what he did wrong, while Hachiel smirks and says, now that's the Henina I remember from school. On the other hand, Henina is thinking that this clueless loser doesn't notice anything. She sniffs herself and realizes she hasn't bathed in days. She's freaking out because she feels disgusting. She knows worrying about something like that in a survival situation is stupid, and she feels ridiculous for even caring. Maybe she'll stop once things get even worse. Still, she decides to drop it. It doesn't matter right now. She just doesn't want to be near Minjin. That's the truth. She wonders, since when did I start caring about stuff like this because of him? In other words, she doesn't want him close because she smells bad and doesn't want him to notice. Totally blushing. Yeah, she's fallen for him. A bit later, they're back on the street. Hachiel asks how the path looks, and she says maybe there are 1, 2, or 3 infected, but she can't promise anything about what's hiding inside the houses. The protagonist says that thanks to Henina, everything felt easier. They were moving quickly. Hachiel agrees but tells them to stay on guard. Then Minjin notices Hachiel walking oddly and asks, Hachiel, are you okay? Your leg looks injured. He says, I'm fine. I hurt it a bit when I fought that soldier, probably a ligament or something, but it's nothing serious. The protagonist says he's crazy. They should be resting. If he keeps pushing, he'll only get worse. But Hachiel pulls out his usual card. This is nothing. Didn't I tell you when I escaped North Korea? 10,000 kilometers, I crossed China. It's a lie. He didn't go through all that. He never tells the whole story. I'm exaggerating. He always plays that card, but he admits they should look for somewhere to sleep later that night. They pass a door marked with an X when suddenly monsters start banging inside. Someone shouts out, survivors. And when they look up, there's a man yelling, hey, I've been stuck here 2 days. Help. Our hero asks, how did you get trapped like an idiot? The man says, I went to grab food, but the staircase filled with infected. Hachiel asks how many. 6 or 7, the man says. 6 or 7 in a narrow corridor with only 3 of them. Hachiel turns and says, sorry, we can't get you out. Your situation's bad and we're not able to help. The man cries, help me. I've been stuck here for 2 days. My family's waiting. The protagonist tells him to stop shouting while Henina asks if it's okay to leave him. Hachiel says they can't help anyone right now. They can't take unnecessary risks. They have to move on. But Minjin pauses and asks if there really isn't a way. Hachiel stops and asks how he plans to handle it. The protagonist says he actually has an idea, a plan that'll complicate everything. Chapter 14, Rescue Mission. They go to a parked car and Hachiel asks, wait, your plan is to open that door, lure those 7 zombies and trap them in this tunnel? The protagonist says yes. His dad's not alive, but they used to push cars even without gears. Since your leg's busted, Hachiel, I'll go. I'll lure the zombies and run through the tunnel. I'll loop around and Henina will close them off from the other side. Hachiel says, you think you can outrun all those zombies and that this dumb plan will work? Can you even run like that? Minjin replies, I'm above average, and I'm not afraid of being chased. Hachiel accepts it. The tunnel's narrow, only one person can pass. If they angle the car right, it's easy to block the way. The door's shut and the air's cold. The only question is why the protagonist is risking so much to save this man. I said before we shouldn't sacrifice ourselves for others. We could risk our lives to save him, but what do we gain? Henina agrees with Hachiel. There's no way to know if that man's good or bad. But the protagonist remembers the older men who were starving, and he answers that he doesn't know why, but the guy doesn't seem like a bad person. Also, in some way, the man reminded Minjin of his father. All right, let's push the car forward a bit, just enough to nearly block the way. They're about to shove it. Hachiel says he'll just turn the wheel, and they slowly shift the car into position. It's set, and he says he'll hide and be ready to shoot if anything goes wrong. Henina thinks it's too dangerous. What if the monsters are right at the door? She asks. Minjin explains, we'll ask the guy upstairs to draw the zombies' attention. The moment they're distracted with him, we open the door. Hachiel readies his gun and says, do you even realize how dangerous this plan of yours is? What if there's a special infected, like the ones you mentioned? Everything could go completely wrong. But Minjin insists that if there really were a smarter infected or something like that, it would escape already. Hachiel finally agrees, but warns him, listen carefully. I'm not putting myself at risk to save you. And this is the last time I'm allowing something like this. If you ever suggest a stunt like that again, we're splitting up. The street is empty, the door is open, and someone inside shouts, over here. Minjin bolts forward, the zombies immediately chasing after him. He runs toward the tunnel while Henina and Hachiel hide nearby. As soon as he passes with the horde behind him, the two jump out and start pushing the car. It looks like Minjin looped around the block and came back. He shouts that it's time, and the two of them push the car with all their strength, blocking the tunnel and trapping the zombies inside. They're all breathing hard, realizing the plan worked. And they hear a voice, "Thank you." It's the old man. He drops to his knees, saying they saved his life. Minjin tells him to get up. This isn't the time for thanks. They need to get somewhere safe. Hachiel, though, just stands there watching quietly. Turns out the man's been surviving surprisingly well. He's got several gas canisters, explaining that his neighborhood used to be a restaurant district, so food was never a problem. Minjin asks how he still has power, and the man says he has solar panels running, so smaller appliances still work. Hachiel comments, "You've got food power, you could last a long time here." The man nods but says he's been going out regularly to look for his daughter. His tone is casual, oddly relaxed for a situation like this. Minjin even tells him that, since he's older, he should probably speak more formally. But the man says no, they saved his life, so they're equals now. Minjin thinks to himself that at least the guy seems decent. Then Henina mentions that Gangbook is about to be sealed off. They need to leave before that happens. The man says he knows, but escaping the area will be extremely dangerous. She asks about his daughter, and he explains that on the day everything began, he was on his way to pick her up from school. The streets were chaos, and he couldn't find her. He kept searching, which turned out to be a terrible mistake. He should have gone home and evacuated with his wife and son. In the end, he missed his chance. Now they stayed behind as a family, hoping the daughter might return someday. Apparently, his wife and son are in another house nearby. He asks where Hachiel found that rifle, and Hachiel replies it was just lying around on the street, nothing special. Then the man offers them a place to stay. It's getting dark, he says. You can stay with me. There's plenty of room, electricity, water, and food. Hachiel answers that it would be a big help, and Henina finds it strange that he's so quick to accept. Even Minjin is surprised, but he figures if Hachiel agreed, that it must be fine. Plus, with more people, they could carry more supplies. They move through the city until they reach the man's house. It's the only one standing in its lot. Solar panels, a brick wall, a metal gate, even security wires. The man's got food and power. It looks like the perfect safe house. But then suddenly, Hachiel loads a bullet into his rifle. The man notices and asks, "Why did you just chamber around?" Hachiel answers, "I know it sounds paranoid, but there are a lot of cruel people left in this world. So since we're walking into a stranger's house, I need to be prepared. We're not thieves or anything. It's just for safety." The old man, confused, says, "All right then." He goes inside and calls, "Honey, I'm back." The scene cuts to somewhere else entirely. In a room, someone kicks the door and says he thought he was going to die again. It's him, Songban, that trash. He wonders aloud, why are there so many bastards around instead of zombies in this neighborhood? At this rate, I'll be killing more people than infected. He sits down relieved to have found a quieter place and then sees a whole plan laid out. Oh, he's found Hachiel. He knows exactly who was at that place. He even saw names. He knows they're heading for the Jangin station, planning to cross the Han River via Line 5. Were they really stupid enough to write their names down? Apparently. But hey, apocalypse logic. Back at the home scene, the old man calls, "Honey, son, I'm home." Meanwhile, Hachiel says, "Minjin, stay back. I'm going first. I don't know. I've got a feeling this guy's lying to us." Is this one of those stories where the uncle keeps the mother and kid locked up and feeds strangers to them? Hachiel's bracing for worst case. They might have to take the house by force. But then someone calls out for love, son. And sure enough, the man really does have a family. Everyone's alive and well. The two kids run up crying, "I thought you were dead, Dad." Hachiel just watches, realizing there's nothing sinister here. The uncle introduces the group and says it's thanks to Jung Minjin and his friends that he's alive. Not long after, Moon Jun, the 45-year-old mother, says she'll make some food and tells them to relax and make themselves at home. She says the water still works so they can take a bath. Henina, stinky as ever, brightens up and smiles wide. The mother compliments her, says she should be famous, that she's wonderful, while Minjin just watches. Then the mother pauses and says her daughter is about the same age as Yena. She started school this year but disappeared a few days ago. Henina tells her not to worry. She's sure the girl's alive. The mother says it's fine, she shouldn't have brought it up, and promises they'll talk about it later. The protagonist glances over and sees the third family member, who looks odd, like a strange ghost, and then disappears. On the couch, she asks about Hachiel's foot, which is very red. Hachiel says he'll have to rest as much as possible. But while they're in the house, it's wise to check everything, see how the place works and make sure it's secure. The protagonist, impressed, Hachiel never drops his guard. We cut to Henina taking a bath. She looks nearly translucent, so pale, and she says she finally doesn't feel disgusting anymore. She thinks about Minjin running and wonders why that idiot's trying to act all noble. It doesn't suit him. She never expected he had that kind of courage. He's crazy. Next time he does something like that, though, she'll stop him before he gets himself killed. Later, dinner's served. The uncle tells them to enjoy it and asks about the Jangin escape plan. He should know the bridges are closed and full of infected. Hachiel lays the whole plan out. The man seems shaken. "We're thinking of heading east using Line 5, trying to get through the subway tunnel if it's not sealed," he says. At that, the old man looks terrified. He says the last place he heard his daughter might be was exactly on Line 5. Now we know the uncle's name, Jaehan. And apparently he mentioned that his daughter's somewhere near Gwangnaru. That station is right after Jangin Station, the one they're heading to, which means they'll end up passing through it along the way. So they explain, our plan is to cross the river through the station. We'll be heading toward Gyeongnaru anyway since it's part of the same underground tunnel network. If your daughter's still alive, there's a chance she's there. Jaehyun nods, saying that's exactly what he's been thinking. He tried driving to Gyeongnaru, but the roads are completely jammed with cars, everything's blocked off, so he couldn't make it. The station, of course, is crawling with infected, and walking all the way there would take too long. He couldn't just abandon the rest of his family either. That's why he couldn't do much. Hakyul asks why he didn't take another route by car, but Jaehyun explains that most of the streets are filled with debris, collapsed buildings, overturned vehicles. There's no way through. Now Hakyul understands that driving isn't an option anymore. Then Henina realizes they haven't even introduced themselves properly yet. The man smiles and says he's actually still teaching at a university. The conversation goes on, and before long, night falls. The mother says they can stay in the room where her daughter used to sleep. She even offers to move her son out so they can rest comfortably. But Minjin says there's no need for that. They'll make do with what they have. Hakyul decides to sleep in the living room. The mother insists that Henina should rest properly, smiling kindly. But Henina glances back and says no. She'd rather stay in the living room with her friends. Minjin frowns. That makes no sense, he says. Why not sleep there? It's way more comfortable. And didn't you once say you sleep better alone? Henina smacks him and tells him to stop sticking his nose into her business. Now, I don't know. Maybe she's suspicious. You really can't trust anyone. I'm with her on that. I wouldn't believe a soul in this world. And apparently, everyone's feeling the same. Henina looks around, checks both sides, and when she realizes no one's asleep yet, she gets up and says, since no one's sleeping, we might as well talk. She asks what Minjin's thinking about. He says he was remembering his mother, wondering if she's okay if something happened. Right now, she's probably worried sick about him. Seeing that family reminded him that he also had one. Then Henina quietly says she'll help him find his family, no matter what. The protagonist looks at her, turns, and thanks her. But suddenly, he gets up again and says, hold on, Henina, I'm a little curious. Your parents, we have no idea where they are. Are you really okay with that? They're your family, after all. She pauses for a moment and says it's fine. Maybe she can tell him. Even though she's never told anyone about her parents before. Oh no, here it comes. Then she reveals that her parents are actually a remarried couple. I think it's like someone split up, someone got back together. I don't even know anymore. She said it's a complete mess. She explains that her dad was a famous doctor at a hospital who used to appear on TV, and her mom was a researcher. But they separated when she was young, and her mom went to America. After that, she started living with her stepmother. And that's where the suffering began. We see that when the protagonist was leaving, she kept shouting, asking if he was really going to ignore her until the end, saying he was crazy. Watching him walk away, she thinks she'll really have to talk to Songban and tell him to stop bothering that loser. But just as she's about to enter her house, she stops, thinking that she's not exactly in a position to call Minjin a loser either. The truth is, she doesn't even want to go home, because if that crazy woman's there, she's going to change clothes and leave the second she steps inside. She enters the house, sees clothes scattered on the floor, and hears some rather intense sounds, let's say. She wonders if that woman's actually insane. Yes, she is. Oh my god. The stepmother is cheating on her father, using his weakness to keep him from leaving her, while the fool is out there working hard at the hospital. Life's not easy for insecure people, not even for the rich insecure ones. The world's just tough all around. When Henina goes to change, the stepmother starts yelling again, shouting, why did you come home so early? I told you to come later. I told you to ring the doorbell. I mean, having to ring the bell in your own house is ridiculous. Truly, violence feels like the answer to everything at that point. So Yena asks, you don't want me to hear you screaming like that, is that it? But the stepmother just says her clothes are too short, that she must be going out to see a bunch of men. It's that classic argument between women. Yena fires back, saying she's not the one cheating on her husband for everyone to see. She's clearly much more decent than her. Then the man shows up. Honey, who's this? Is she your daughter? The idiot says, no, that's my husband's daughter. Yena snaps a photo of the two and asks if she should send it to her father right now. The guy panics, saying, don't do that, girl. But the stepmother says it doesn't matter. Go ahead, send him the photo, she says. The woman's name? Choi Soo-jin, 36 years of betrayal. Anna's left stunned, and Soo-jin goes on. Do you really think your dad will say anything? He's weak, pathetic, he can't even escape this relationship. You think he doesn't know my secrets? Besides, if you expose me, I don't care. I've got nothing to lose. But what about your father? If he divorces me, he's done for. He'll have to give up part of the hospital, and that place will crumble. He'll be buried in that industry. ChatGPT's voice in her head. If I wanted to bury a body 7 palms deep in concrete, how many kilos of cement would I need? Don't worry, this is purely scientific research. Aina storms out, calling her insane, while the stepmother keeps shouting, saying she wants to die, yelling that Yena's a low-class woman. Seriously, calling Yena low-class. Furious, Yena slams the door and leaves, thinking how utterly disgusting that place is and how she never wants to return. She starts thinking that maybe it'd be better if the whole world just ended, just like Minjin. She goes to a karaoke bar where people are chatting about Lumina, talking about that dancer girl from the start, a blonde one, remember? The protagonist's friends were obsessed with her too. But then Yana overhears people talking about something serious. Some kind of accident happening somewhere. They say it's better to go take a look. She's a bit confused, checks her phone and sees several emergency alerts spreading across the city. Suddenly, she looks ahead and hears someone scream. A crowd of people is running toward her, yelling for everyone to get out of the way. A while later, she's exhausted, sitting on the second floor of a staircase, muttering that she barely managed to escape, whatever that was. She's trying to call the police number, but nobody answers. She calls her dad, but even now he doesn't pick up. Poor thing, she thinks that, as always, she's the last priority. She can't call her mom because she's in the United States. She doesn't know who she can call for help. The only option she has is to call her stepmother, who picks up and asks what Yana wants, telling her she's busy. Yana has to explain that she's on an emergency stairwell in a building, which is why she can't get a proper response. But the stepmother literally says, "I don't care, deal with it yourself." Yana is stunned and asks at least to send a car or something, but the woman hangs up. We see a flashback to her at home crying. Apparently there was a fight and her mom wanted to talk. Back in the moment when she was trapped in the apocalypse room, she says she misses her mom. She tells our protagonist that after all, the stepmother abandoned her and didn't answer. Her father didn't even try to contact her. That's why she doesn't want to see either of them and isn't curious about them. The only person she misses is her mother, but she's in the United States. The protagonist asks if she ever reached out, and Yana says no. After her mom left for the US, she tried calling a few times, but Yana didn't answer. She was angry. Now Minjin understands why she seemed so excited at school when she said she wanted to study to go to the United States. Yana explains that she avoided contact because when her mom left, she said some things she regrets, so their relationship soured. That's why she has no one nearby. But now the confident guy steps in. He says, Yana, don't say that beautiful. You're not alone. I'm here. We're going to survive together. He's the laugh king. Her face flushes and she says, I get it. Maybe we should sleep now. Everyone sleeps and the next day dawns. It's morning. Hakiel fell asleep holding the rifle tight. Now we'll see the story. It's going to be amazing. The king of 10,000 kilometers. Someone says, you want me to drag you and blow your head off like I did with your relatives? If you want to blame someone, blame your uncle who betrayed our land. It's his fault you and all your siblings will live in this country eating shit forever. Wow, we just saw that. Hakiel wakes up to the sound of a car. At the same moment, Jaehyun appears asking if they heard it. It seems a car stopped in front of the house. Hakiel comes out with a gun in hand and hears car doors opening and closing. He needs to be alert because this will also attract more infected nearby. He sees a ladder beside the gate, props it up, and climbs to take a look. He climbed aiming, but something surprises him. Two men standing in front of the house. Chapter 18, Mysterious Intruders. The one on the left says, should we take a look? And the other, holding a shovel, says, I don't know. This place is full of wire. Maybe there's someone. Not to mention they could be infected. But then Hakiel notices one of them has a pistol in his hand. Immediately, he orders the man to stand still, drop the gun, and put his hands up. The man is startled and raises his hands, but Hakiel says, if you don't drop that gun in 3 seconds, you're going to have a hole in your head. The man puts his Desert Eagle on the ground. Hakiel wonders where the kid got that. The men want to know who he is, but he replies, I'm the one asking the questions. Are you here to rob us? The men say, no, we're innocent. Nobody here is bad. Hakiel says, weird thing to say for someone walking around with a gun like that. You trying to lie to me, you bastards? Speak up. Where did you get that weapon? The one in camouflage answers, we took it from a dead man. I think, maybe he was a soldier? Hakiel snaps, you idiot, you think this is America where everyone walks around with a pistol? Liar. What? The man yells back. Go to hell. Who cares where this gun came from? You're holding a rifle yourself, kid. Hakiel replies, this rifle I'm carrying is standard military issue, but your pistol is not exactly common. The older guy in the brown jacket steps in. Calm down, friend. I'm an office worker, and this kid here is still in school. We were just patrolling after getting cut off at Gunja Station. Let us grab our weapons and leave. That's all we want. But Hakiel wants to know what they mean about Gunja Station. Is that line 5? That's 2 stations before Gwangnaru. The man nods. Yeah, there's a big survivor base there. Hakiel tells him to prove it. The man answers, whether it's true or not, you can go see for yourself. We're heading there, but getting in and out isn't easy. Hakiel says, so it seems everyone's thinking about crossing the Han River through line 5's underground route. The men respond, well, we tried a few times, but it's not easy. Every station around Gunja is full of infected. That's all we can tell you. Hakiel presses, what do you mean? I want to hear more. If you have any information, I'm ready to listen. First, I want to know if you've heard of a woman named Seo Hakyung, 20 years old. The men hesitate. We can tell you what we know, but at least let us come inside. One says, there could be infected around. The scene shifts inside the house with Jaehyun confused about this whole Gunja Station base thing. The man in the brown jacket explains, well, it seems like a large base, hundreds of survivors. The entrance is well blocked and the setup is organized. We were patrolling about 2 kilometers away, but we got chased by a few infected and ended up here. Hakiel tells him to continue with what they discussed before. The guy in the military jacket asks, you lost contact with your daughter at Gwangnaru Station, line 5, around 8:10, right? The The father nods, remembering calling her and asking what was going on. She had said people were attacking each other and chaos had broken out in the subway. She moved to the next car, but it was packed with people blocking the way and she was scared. Her father couldn't understand what was happening. Then she mentioned she was almost at Gyeongnaru. Back to the present, he says, well, after that, I don't know. But it seems she got off at Gyeongnaru. The man in the brown jacket says, I was on that train that day too, heading to Gyeongnaru. The problem was that an infected appeared in one of the cars. Because of that, the train skipped both Gyeongnaru and ActionToon stations and went straight to Gunja. If that was around 8:10 and she and I were probably on the same train, which means there's a high chance that girl's in Gunja. The father gets hopeful and grabs his phone and saying maybe they saw her. Her name is Seo Haekyeon. He's about to show them a photo. But damn, the story doesn't show us the picture. The men say it's hard to tell, the photo isn't clear enough, so they can't be sure if they've seen her. And with more than 200 survivors, it's impossible to remember every face. Too many infected, too much chaos. It's a shame, but they can't know for sure. They'd have to go there to the shelter to find out. Then they ask, so are you coming with us? What are you planning to do? The guy in the military jacket says, I'm warning you now, the entrance is heavily restricted. For outsiders like you, it's going to be hard for them to let you in, got it? If you want even a small chance, you better come with us. At least that way, we've got the advantage of moving together. Haekyeon replies, we've got a lot of people. Moving as one big group will be tough. The man nods and says that's fine. They can set a meeting point halfway, and tomorrow morning they'll head out. He hands over a walkie-talkie and explains, if you're within 500 meters to a kilometer, just call me. We'll use this to keep a bit of distance between groups while heading to the meeting point. All he asks in return is 2 days worth of supplies, nothing else. That's a fair deal if they can be trusted, right? Honestly, the men seem calm and reasonable. If they're tricking anyone, then they would fool me too, and I'd die like an idiot. A short while later, Yena exclaims, oh my god, we're going to Gunja Station. Haekyeon explains, yeah, we'll set a halfway point today and head there tomorrow morning. She asks the obvious question, what if those guys are lying? Haekyeon says they have no reason to lie, and besides from how they act, even though they've got weapons, they don't seem like bad people. Then he turns to the older man and says, Professor, we're leaving tomorrow. What about you? You know if we go on foot, it'll be impossible to bring your whole family. But if we find a 6-seater vehicle, there's a chance this could work. Obviously, they'd have to follow the route the others mentioned, and there's still no guarantee of safety. He adds firmly, I've got to be straight with you. It's dangerous. There's a real chance everyone could die. If things go wrong, I'll have to look out for myself, so think carefully about what you'll do. The mother says, honey, and the kid looks frightened while Yena is raiding the fridge, stuffing food in a bag. If we're leaving tomorrow, I'm taking supplies. The professor's family is coming too, so we'll need plenty. Better grab a backpack and take everything we can. Then she pauses and wonders, where's Minjin? Curious, she peeks through the door and sees the protagonist talking, wow, so you're the king of online games and still get good grades? That's awesome. But let me tell you, I'm the legend of a game called Rage Z, the King of Zombies. The boy answers, I want to play that too, but my dad won't let me. He says it's too violent. Anna walks in, backpack strapped to her front, and asks, since when did you two get this close? Then she glances to the side and notices the kid's a fan of Lumina. Oh god, I'm telling you, there's something weird about this Lumina. She keeps showing up in random ways since the start of the story. The boy says yeah, he really likes her, staring at the poster on the wall while his mom calls him downstairs. The protagonist freezes, just staring at Lumina's face on the wall. Yena asks, Minjin, why are you staring at that so much? Is she your type or something? He pauses for a second, then says, no, it's just, I knew her when I was younger, Yujian. Anna's eyes widen in surprise. Then she bursts out laughing. Yeah, right? You knew Lumina? Show me your number if you're so close. Stop lying, nerd. Minjin looks embarrassed, and then he says, well, she's a year younger than me. And of course I never got her number. We stopped talking before high school. When I found out she was becoming an idol, I supported her for a while. But now, the truth is, she's living in a completely different world from mine. He looks at Yena, whose face clearly says she doesn't believe a word of it. He shrugs. Don't want to believe me? Fine. My friends said the same thing. They thought I was delusional. He walks away while she says it's impossible. He just replies, all right, all right. But the fact that he doesn't care whether she believes him or not makes it feel more real, and she keeps staring, saying there's no way it's true. Even she doesn't like to admit it, but Lumina really was stunning. Pure Korean beauty standards. That egg-shaped face of hers was perfect, apparently. I'd say Yena looks much healthier, stronger. Sometime later, the uncle comes up to Haekyeon and says, I talked it over with my wife and son. The truth is, there's no hope if we just sit still. One day our supplies will run out and things will only get worse. So the goal now is to reach Gunja Station. Haekyeon says he understands but asks about the vehicle. Jaehan replies, well, I know about an SUV that would be perfect. The only problem is it's stuck in restricted area and hard to get out. There's also an ambulance about a kilometer from here. The infected one was just the driver. If we can take care of that, we might be able to get it running. Haekyeon nods. Well, an ambulance can easily fit 6 people in the back, so that could work. Jaehan adds, though, that there might actually be 2 infected, the driver and a passenger, and possibly more in the back. Great. At this rate, when they get there, there'll be 200 of them. The number keeps going up. Hakyul asks when he saw it, and Jaehun says about 3 days ago, so they're probably still around. Hakyul says, if there are just 3, with your help, we can handle it. But if it's too risky and there are more, we'll have to drop the plan. Either way, it's decided we move out tomorrow. All the supply bags are ready. Then the protagonist appears. Hakyul, idiot, tell me, do you know how to make a fire bottle? Hakyul's confused, but the protagonist says yes, and that he's got a bad feeling they're going to need it. His friend agrees it sounds like a good idea. Night falls and everyone lies down, tense and restless. Over the walkie-talkie, the man's voice comes through. Hakyul, did you get a vehicle? Hakyul answers, tomorrow we're going after an ambulance near the house. The plan is to check it out and see if we can bring it back, but there might be a few surprises. The man replies, all right, we'll be waiting at the construction site by the intersection. We're heading out tomorrow too, so make sure you're ready. That night, the fog is thick. There are zombies all around the ambulance, and inside, of course, you can hear their groans echoing. The man just wishes them good luck. And is asleep, and this is chapter 18, Yena's dream. She's in the classroom, sleeping when she suddenly wakes up, wondering what kind of weird dream that zombie apocalypse was. She looks around and asks herself if everyone already went home, checks the clock, and wonders why no one woke her up. She leaves the room and bumps into someone. When she looks, it's Minjin. Oh boy, she freezes. What's going on? Is she about to launch a rocket at my protagonist? She's pointing at him. What are you doing here? Why didn't you go home? And why are you staring at me like that? What's your problem? Suddenly, oh my god. He grabs her and pushes her against the wall. The girl's dreaming that she's being cornered by Minjin. She yells at him, asking if he's lost his mind, if he wants to die, and tells him to let go. But this Minjin, the one she actually likes, is serious. He says, you woman, literally, and then adds, you think it was fine to keep ignoring me? Last night, the week before, and 2 weeks ago, you insulted me, remember? You treated me like garbage at school, so why are you talking to me now? Maybe I should start being rude to you. Her face turns bright red. Apparently she likes it, and she turns away, saying he's just a pathetic loser. Why is he talking like that all of a sudden? Minjin, now acting completely serious, tells her to shut up and says that if she complains one more time, he'll end her. I don't even know what he means by that. She'd ask why he's suddenly so strong while he tells her she can scream all she wants. Then he adds that he's noticed something. She keeps saying all this, but she's not actually resisting. Apparently, she only pretends to fight back, but deep down, she's soft. She answers that she's just looking away because she doesn't want to stare at a weirdo like him. He warns her again, saying that if she keeps running her mouth, next time he really will end her. She says he's lost his mind. Looks like the loser's suddenly growing some courage. My god, this Ian is a real problem. I think it's time for Minjin to run for his life. This girl's crazy. And in her dream, she's completely out of her mind, until suddenly she opens her eyes and realizes she's gone mad. What kind of nightmare was that? She wonders. But then, what the hell, girl? She's sleeping, hugging Minjin, who's all squished under her. She instantly turns bright red, wondering what she's doing, why she's lying right next to him. Then she realizes he must have rolled over in his sleep and shoved her against the wall. The wall? That's probably why she had that dream. Seriously, was this idiot a pervert, or was he pretending to be asleep while doing that? She notices Hakyul sleeping peacefully, while she's practically crushing our poor protagonist. Oh boy, she's even redder now, saying something feels weird. She used to think they all had that smell of people who live in a basement, which is why she never wanted to get close. But now, she's not smelling anything. Wait, did she actually sniff his mouth in the morning? This girl's nuts. Is this the kind of woman you all want in your lives? Now the crazy girl's mumbling that he smells nice, and suddenly that he looks handsome. With that potato face of his, she's thinking she must still be dreaming, or maybe she's just losing it. Maybe he looks better because he took his glasses off. Suddenly, he opens his eyes and they're staring straight at each other. Ah, hi. She blurts out. Then she screams, calls him a pervert, and punches him right in the face. What? Hakyul jumps up, grabbing his rifle. Calm down, North Korea. Henina yells that it's nothing and tells everyone to go back to sleep, while the protagonist sitting there like, what just happened? She asks why he was so close to her, and he says, I don't know. When I opened my eyes, you were the one near me. She tells him to shut up and suddenly looks like she's about to cry, saying he yelled at her and hit her. Then she kicks him in the face and hides. The protagonist is completely confused. What's this nonsense about him yelling at her? The girl's seriously losing it. Hakyul asks if he really shouted at her or did anything, and Minjin says no. Maybe it happened in her dream? Whatever it was, that whole crazy scene finally ends. Sometime later, they go over the plan again. Apparently, only Hakyul and the uncle will go fetch the car. He tells Minjin to stay upstairs and keep watch for their return. Once they get close, he's supposed to open the entrance so they can pull the vehicle inside and prepare. Then he says he's heading out, and everyone tells them both to be careful. Out front, he sees a bowl on the ground, trash scattered everywhere, and the dirty city stretching ahead. From a distance, though, he can make out the ambulance, at least the back of it. Yana asks if he can see anything, and he says that unfortunately, the fog's heavy today. She finds it strange. It's been more than an hour. He says, yeah, but it's a kilometer away. At a steady pace, that's at least a 30-minute walk, and with infected around, it could take even longer. Suddenly, they hear 3, maybe 4 gunshots. Yana asks if it was Hachiel. He says no, this sounds different. That wasn't his rifle. She immediately asks who it was, and he says, maybe the guys from yesterday. Then she suddenly stiffens and stands up. He asks what's wrong, and she says there's a terrible smell nearby, something really rotten. Something was coming. Right then, the protagonist hears someone shouting, "Open the door." When he looks through the binoculars, it's that guy in the brown jacket yelling for him to open up now. Minjin remembers the man. Yana asks who it is, and he says it's the same guy from yesterday. But where's the car they came in? And where's the other guy? The desperate man says he was attacked and died. The protagonist asks about Hachiel, and the man says he has no idea. A monster had shown up, one that guns weren't working on. The protagonist peers through the binoculars and freezes when he sees a fat one approaching. He remembers that Dan Bongyu. The thing's ruling blood and wondering why nobody accepts him. In a flashback of the protagonist playing the game, he says he marked the fat zombie's location and told everyone not to go there. Now the anxiety that's been gnawing at him starts to become real. What if what's happening now is connected to that game? Seeing Bongyu at that moment, he finally becomes sure. Chapter 19, You Have to Help or Everyone Dies. The scene cuts back to a few minutes earlier, with the zombie inside the ambulance. Hachiel says it looks like there are only 2 in the front seats. The problem is whether the vehicle will even start and run. Then Hachiel heard 3 shots. The moment he left to go check, he got a message asking if he secured the vehicle. He needed to hurry because they were in trouble. Hachiel tells Jaehan that the guys from yesterday seem to be in trouble and they should go help with the rifle. He orders, "Open the door, I'll shoot and kill those zombies." More infected will come because of the noise, so they have to finish this fast. The protagonist runs up the stairs while the man outside bangs on the door asking to be let in. When the protagonist arrives, he asks if the man is okay and tells him to come inside. But there's a zombie right beside him. Before Minjin can do anything, both of them fall to the floor and the man screams for help. The protagonist wants to rush out to help, but Yana warns there are more zombies coming. Then in the background, she sees Bongyu staring and calling her name. The poor girl falls to the floor in fear. The door slams shut while the man outside keeps yelling for help. In that instant, the protagonist recognizes him. He was one of Songban's friends. The zombie is closing in, calling Yena's name, and Minjin says there's no way to fight it. They have to run. That zombie is way too strong to be taken down even with a rifle. They need to find Hachiel and get out of there. Then there's a bang and the gate starts to bend. Moon Ji-eun shows up asking what's happening. The protagonist tells her to get inside now and hide with Haejin on the stairs above. He remembers the fire bottle. He calls for Yena and says he urgently needs her help, but she's paralyzed, staring into the mirror, frozen with fear. She can't move. He yells for her to wake up because if she doesn't, they'll die. That monster will smash the gate and even break down the front door. He'll throw a fire bottle at the entrance to buy time, and when the monster hesitates, she should throw the gasoline on top of it. Then he'll throw another fire bottle so the zombie should burn. They've got 8 bottles total, 4 for him and 4 for her. He's trembling and asking if she heard him. She manages, "Huh? Okay." The protagonist runs in, calls for the rest of the family to get upstairs, and starts grabbing fire bottles. He knows the big problem is that more infected will be drawn by the noise. Once the gate opens, it's going to get a lot worse. Everyone's getting ready to go in at once. But if the theory's right, even when the infected are completely enraged, they're still vulnerable to fire. Of course, they'll still be able to push through the flames, but at least it'll keep too many of them from flooding in. Then the gate collapses, and Bongyu charges inside. Minjin stands his ground, braver than ever, facing the monster head-on. He knows that if they can't even stop this zombie before the others come, everyone's doomed. The moment the creature bursts in, Yana shouts from above that she's found the perverted bastard and dumps gasoline all over him. The zombie gets a full head-to-toe soak, and Minjin throws another fire bottle, saying, "You're done for." An explosion follows. Barbecue time. The protagonist yells from above, telling them to keep throwing fire bottles at anything that gets inside. Another infected rushes in, and Minjin prepares to toss another bottle, knowing they desperately need Hachiel and the rifle back soon. The 2 women upstairs have probably used up most of theirs by now. It's his turn to throw the last one, but he completely fumbles it. As he raises his arm, the monster lunges on top of him, slamming him to the ground. The mother's ready to throw her fire bottle. She's about to roast our poor guy alive. Yana shouts, "If you throw it now, you'll hit Minjin." The protagonist pinned down, the monster's back already on fire, while another one shambles toward them. Still, Minjin holds his ground, locking his arm under the creature's neck and yelling for Yana to stay hidden. Seeing more infected closing in, he realizes that if any more break through, it's over. Then come the sounds, 1 shot, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When he opens his eyes, Hachiel's there with the rifle. The protagonist's been saved. The kid actually fought well. He's grown. Are we satisfied? Not really, but it's fine. Hachiel reaches out to pull him up, but then the king of Big Macs rises again. Hachiel shouts for everyone to run. They have to get out now. The zombie women have arrived, but the Battlefield 6 king crouches, slides, stands up again, and wipes out all 3 of them. Now it's time to get in the ambulance. They clear the back, Hachiel orders them to move, and the father drives straight through the monsters ahead. In the rearview mirror, he watches the burning house, everything he built gone. Chapter 20, I'm Not a Hero. The ambulance races through the city, everyone inside wearing a dazed expression. The protagonist sits in silence, remembering the moment he opened the door for the uncle, who was dragged down and then slammed it shut again. The guilt stings. Yana asks if he's okay. He says he is, just that same wound from before. She tells him Hakuel needs to check his stitches, but he says they'll deal with it tomorrow. Jaehyun points out that the meeting point's no good anymore since the man died. He obviously won't show up. Hakuel says he left a note to turn left at Insang and keep going straight. If they can make it about 4 kilometers, that'll be halfway. Jaehyun suggests they just keep going all the way to the station, but Hakuel shakes his head. It's going to rain, it'll get darker, and more creatures will appear. It's better to stay at the meeting point for now. It's safer. They finally find the Sky Hotel. When they enter, the place is terrifying. Dark hallways, rooms splattered with blood on the walls. Everyone's uneasy. Are you sure this place is safe? Someone asks. Hakuel answers, rooms 202, 203, and 206 are all secure. We'll stay in those. The others are amazed at how calm he is. He explains that he's far more afraid of people than of the infected or ghosts. They should watch out for any rooms marked with an X. In room 203, Hakuel asks if Yen is going to sleep alone, and she quickly says no. She'd rather stay with them than be by herself. While they're discussing who's staying in which room, the protagonist goes to the bathroom, leans against the wall, and mutters that the pain's getting worse. He wonders why it isn't healing, and when he pulls his shirt to check the wound, oh no, he freezes. The wound looks strange, red, and inflamed. Could it be infected? Exactly that thought hits him. It really looks like an infection. But how? When could it have happened? Maybe when that infected one fell on top of him. But that wouldn't make sense. There's no visible bite mark. Wait, maybe that knife used to stab him back at the construction site was already contaminated. On top of that, his memory's a blur after that fall. Still, that doesn't add up either. The virus incubation period is much shorter. If he'd been infected that day, he would have turned into a zombie long ago. The only possibility is that it happened earlier. He remembers that zombie pinning him down, Hakuel shooting and killing it, and his own chest being splattered with blood. Maybe a single drop or the virus got into his mouth or eyes. But then he recalls Hakuel saying he'd been drenched in zombie blood countless times and was never infected, unless Hakuel was wrong. Or maybe, best case scenario, it's just an infected wound, nothing more. Then his body trembles. He collapses to the floor and knows it for sure he's probably infected. Outside, Yen is staring at the bathroom door. He's been in there for over 30 minutes. What's he even doing? I'm starting to lose my mind. Minjin, get out of there already. The protagonist finally opens the door. She asks, what were you doing? We didn't even hear water or anything. Minjin just says, there's an extra room, right? Can I sleep alone tonight? They ask why, and he says he just wants to be by himself. Yana crosses her arms and says no, he has to give a reason. He explains that he's not feeling well and just wants some space. Yana, meanwhile, realizes she'll have to share a room with Hakuel and finds the idea kind of awkward. What? Afraid of Hakuel? The guy is as gentle as they come with that angelic face just staring at her. While Minjin's packing his backpack, she steps in front of him and asks, are you mad at me or something? He looks straight at her and says, Yana, I'm not joking. She freezes, unsure how to answer, and he walks away. Hakuel watches and says, don't worry. I'll stay with the radio and the others. It'll probably be less awkward than us sharing a room anyway. She nods, saying okay. The scene shifts to room 202. The protagonist enters and his thoughts start to spiral. Everyone always thinks their life will play out like a movie hero's story, that somehow everything will turn out fine and they'll live happily ever after. Or that no matter how bad things get, it'll all work out in the end. But lying on the floor, he knows life doesn't work like that. His life's nothing like a protagonist's tale. In the end, he got infected and will vanish like any other nobody, a background extra in his own story. But really, what else did he expect from a life as miserable as his? Poor guy's crying quietly, thinking this must be the end. No, Minjin, we know you're not dying. You're the main character. You don't know that, but I have to tell you. Night passes, morning comes. Yana's banging on the door. Minjin, wake up, you idiot. Hakuel comes over. Relax, I'll open it. He tries turning the handle, but it's locked. Then he says, I hope I'm wrong, but I think Minjin might have been infected. Yana looks shocked. No way. He wasn't bitten yesterday. He's been fine this whole time. Hakuel asks if she ever actually checked his whole body. No one's been examining each other. She insists it doesn't make sense. If he were infected, he'd be banging on the door right now. That wouldn't make sense. Hakuel says that if Minjin were fine, he would open the door by now. And if he's not infected, then maybe he's not even breathing anymore. Wow, Hakuel really wants to kill our protagonist, doesn't he? Yana yells at him to stop joking about that, banging on the door and shouting, damn it, Minjin, open up right now. Stop playing around. It's not funny. Hakuel tells her to calm down, but she hits the door again, hesitates for a moment, then starts crying and yelling for him to open it. Then, the doorknob turns. Both of them freeze in shock. The protagonist is standing there, but my god, he looks more infected than alive. Is he about to pull that infected but superpowered protagonist card? Or will he be one of those rare types who never turn at all immune? Let's find out. Chapter 21, 18 years ago in the United States. Oh no, here we go. A group of boys are standing outside a house, one of them saying, "Hey, there's this guy who people say has been preparing for the apocalypse." What? His friend blurts out, "Are you crazy? I'm not doing this. We're gonna get shot in the head. I'm leaving. Bye, I'm going home. My mom's gonna kill me." But then someone from inside the house calls out, "Who's there? The zombies are coming. You're in danger." The boy looks confused. "What are you talking about? Zombies?" The man on the other side asks, "You were speaking that weird language to someone. What language was that?" The boy replies, "Oh, I was speaking Korean." The man asks, "Are you one of the kids from that Asian couple who live nearby?" He answers, "No, I'm not their kid. I'm just staying here with my uncle's family." The man asks, "Where are your parents?" The boy lowers his head and says they're already gone. That's why he and his twin brother came to live in the United States. The man apologizes but says, "This area is dangerous, kid. You better get back home before the zombies get here." The boy rolls his eyes, thinking the guy's just some lunatic. He starts wondering if the man's just role-playing or lost in his imagination, pretending to live differently. The boy jokes back, "I'm being chased by zombies right now. I'm running, but it's hard to get away." The man replies, "So they finally arrived. You weren't bitten, were you?" The boy laughs nervously. No. Then the door creaks open. Inside, the man's holding a shotgun, telling him, "Get in quick before things get worse." The boy steps inside and realizes the lunatic's actually serious. There's a proper base, staircase for vantage points, every window sealed, food stacked neatly. The kid asks, "Uncle, what's with all this zombie talk? What do you mean by that?" The man answers, "Kid, you really don't get it, do you? When sinners die, do you know where they go? Straight to hell. But so many sinful humans have died that hell's full now. You know what that means? Judgment is coming, a cruel one. All those sinners who die now, whose souls can't go to hell anymore, they'll be trapped here on earth, wandering forever. It's divine retribution. Judgment day is near. If you don't prepare like I am, no one's going to survive. Let me show you something amazing. Come with me." Totally not suspicious, inviting a kid inside and leading him to the basement. But the man's seriously prepared. Shelves and shelves of supplies, a full arsenal of weapons. The boy stares, wide-eyed. "What is this, uncle? You going to war?" The man replies, "The war that's coming for us one of these days. It's always best to be ready." The guy even had an apocalypse-ready car built for zombie killing. 18 years later, back to the present. Haxiel's got his rifle aimed. Of course it's him, the man who never misses, pointed straight at our protagonist. Yana shouts, "Haxiel, are you seriously pointing that at Minjin's head?" He answers, "You never know. What if he suddenly turns and attacks?" She asks, "Professor, do you think he's infected?" The man replies, "Clearly, this isn't a normal reaction to a stab wound. A 42-degree fever and he's still alive? That's impossible." Minjin groans in pain. "I just don't understand how I got infected. I wasn't bitten. It doesn't make any sense. The symptoms are starting where the stab wound was, but that was a long time ago." Mana agrees, "Yeah, if that stab happened so long ago, he would have turned already if that was the cause." Jaehoon explains, "Usually it depends on where the bite is. Sometimes it takes minutes, sometimes hours, but never more than a day." Hakiel adds, "Judging by his condition, first, he's definitely infected. Second, if it didn't happen the day he was stabbed, then some kind of fluid must have entered his bloodstream somehow. That means when I treated Minjin, he was already infected. Why the symptoms are showing only now, though? No idea." Ayana's voice trembles. "Wait, you're saying Minjin's been infected for days?" He nods. "Yes." Then the doctor asks what they're going to do. Hakiel says, "We'll wait one more day. If he doesn't turn by tomorrow, maybe he's immune. I'm no medical expert, so I can't say for sure." The protagonist is stunned. Immune? Time flies, afternoon, night, morning. Minjin wakes up and Yena's still there beside him, looking brave and beautiful in pink. "Wow," she says, "your fever's gone down a lot. You're doing much better. How do you feel?" He sits up, still a little weak, and asks how long he was out. She says, "Since yesterday, you've been asleep for over 12 hours. He asks what the crazy girl's still doing there, and she replies, "Obviously, I've been keeping an eye on you." Minjin looks confused. "Aren't you scared of staying near me since I might be infected?" But she takes the chance to tease him. "A loser like you being infected isn't exactly scary." And she adds, "Besides, Haxiel said that if you made it through today, you're probably immune, so I guess that's the case." Minjin, in a softer tone, says, "You've changed a lot, you know. You're taking care of a loser like me, throwing fire bottle with the teacher. You've gotten confident." She blushes and tells him to stop acting like she's some delicate flower. "I was just checking on you, and that's all," she says, but he interrupts to thank her, saying, "Still, you're not the same as before. I never thought I'd be able to rely on you, but I guess things really did change." Her face turns even redder. She mutters that he should be thankful. After all, he's the one who helped her survive. A while later, Haxiel asks, "So, you're saying this Bong you looked exactly like a zombie from that game?" The protagonist nods. "Yeah, I'm sure of it now. Somehow. Everything that's happening is connected to that game, I just don't know how." Hakiel frowns. "You mean the game company created the virus and released it?" Minjin quickly says he has no idea. But the developer of that game is a well-known person. He was the CEO of Red Studio. At that moment, Jaehoon's son, Seo Haejin, chimes in, "Daniel Jin." The boy explains that Daniel Jin is someone he really admires as a developer. The protagonist smiles. Right, Haejin wants to be a game developer too. Hakyul asks Yelena if she knows the name. She says maybe she's heard it before. Haejin continues, he's half Korean, half American, a really famous developer. He built his company from nothing. He'd owned Redmine Studios and created Rage Z, the zombie game that got insanely popular. After making a fortune from it, he started investing in AI, medicine, biotechnology, and buying up a ton of companies. It seems that in the United States, he became as famous as Elon Musk. You know Musk? Not Musk. Anyway, apparently he also has a twin brother who's pretty well known too, something Jin in his name. Hakyul's trying to remember, zombies, medical projects, it's all strangely starting to connect. Lena asks whether that man's company might have anything to do with this and what their real goal could be. But of course, nobody has a clue. Then the scene shifts completely. The uncle is speaking. Daniel Jin, 29 years old. Before coming to America, you lived in Korea, part of a wealthy family. Along with your brother, Elliot Jin, you both said you were bullied as kids. Your mother was a famous actress back in 2005, but after a few scandals, she couldn't recover and took her own life. Wow, they're spilling this guy's whole backstory while the uncle just keeps talking. Details no one even needs to know. Alright then, let's read on. Apparently, Daniel suffered a lot under a strict Korean uncle. Later, when he started making money in the gaming industry, people in Korea scammed him and stole his fortune. The uncle keeps going on about Daniel's life, but Daniel finally interrupts, telling him to get straight to the point because he needs to go to Korea. The uncle nods. You suffered because of your people, I get that. Maybe you want revenge, but do you really need to go this far? Then he accuses him. Daniel Jin, you're the one who spread the virus in Korea, aren't you? Daniel, however, answers firmly that he's already said countless times he wasn't the one who did it. If you're going to suspect anyone, it should be my brother. Aiden Brooks asks, how do you even know your brother went to Korea? Daniel says he doesn't for sure, but his brother was one of the lead researchers and the entire research team had gone there before all this chaos began, so it makes sense that he'd be there. Aiden replies, either way, you were the one who bought that lab for your brother, weren't you? How do you expect us to believe you're not involved with this virus? And besides, right when all this started, your biotech company's value skyrocketed by 500%, the perfect opportunity for you to cash in. Daniel takes his hand off his face and says he's always been like that. He always said Koreans deserve to go to hell. What the hell? Aiden Brooks looks confused. Wait, are you telling me that Elliot Jin, the one who supposedly wanted to save humanity, actually hated Koreans? Daniel fires back. Do you really think I told my brother, hey, build a zombie virus so we can release it in Korea? Come on. I was focused on building my game, making money, and trying to help humanity. And now, while we're sitting here talking, people are dying in Korea. Tech and medical agencies can't even come up with a vaccine. And if this virus really did originate from our lab, then we're the only ones who can stop it. Hayden responds coldly, don't worry, the vaccine will be developed on American soil. Daniel snaps, wait, you're not seriously planning to bring an infected person here, are you? The man says no, they're not planning to because it's already on its way. And that, folks, is exactly how things spread across the world. Brilliant. Aiden then asks the woman beside him, any updates on Elliot Jin? She answers, unfortunately, no. No contact from any agents. Morris Blake, a CIA officer, says that Daniel is still the main suspect because everything he said so far matches the available intel. Kimberly Rosa, a Latina agent, adds that until they confirm what really happened with Elliot Jin, they can't release Daniel. Daniel then offers a compromise. We can change the plan. I'll go with you to Korea. I won't be alone. You can keep me under watch wherever I go. I'll stay under CIA custody the entire time, and I'm sure that once I'm there, Elliot will come looking for me. No one knows my brother better than I do. So is he going to Korea to save humanity? Of course not. Take a look at the title of Chapter 22, Park Songban. And speaking of that bastard, there he is skating down the street. 2 days ago, on the same day, they went out looking for the ambulance. He's skating and muttering, damn, this fog is really messing things up. I've only got 30% battery left and I need to find a place to recharge this thing fast. At least I'm almost at Chang'an. I just hope those idiots haven't changed their destination. Either way, even if they're not there, they're probably trying to cross through Line 5. I'll check that station. Sooner or later, I'll run into them. Then a zombie comes straight toward him. But Songban's got guts. He steps down like it's nothing, grabs his knife, and stabs it in the head. Calm he is not. He mutters that stabbing something in the head with a knife actually feels kind of satisfying. It's way better than punching. Now he understands why some crazy people turn into serial killers. Clearly, this guy isn't all right. Suddenly, he hears gunshots probably from nearby. He gets up confused. Who the hell even has a gun in Korea? Maybe the military. If there are people with guns, now that's something serious. But if those damn soldiers really have weapons, why aren't they killing these infected? He decides it's best to go check. Apparently, he hotwired a car or stole a battery because he's back speeding off. More gunfire follows, this time much closer. What surprises him is that there have already been more than 10 shots in total. Then someone nearby shouts, "Are you a survivor?" It's a man in a military uniform saying, "Kid, you shouldn't go that way. It's crawling with infected. I'm badly hurt, can you help me?" Songbin looks at him, steps inside the house, and asks if that's true. The man's covered in cuts and says, "Yeah, I'm not lying. There are some survivors about 300 meters from here. We were supposed to meet at the hotel in Unseeduk. But then that monster suddenly showed up and everything turned into chaos. I barely made it out. My leg's useless now, but at least I wasn't bitten. My group probably thinks I'm dead. My friend ran to the house where the others are to ask for help." Songbin kneels down and says, "Stay calm. At least you're alive. I'll help you." But who were those soldiers and survivors? I heard a lot of gunfire. He pretends not to know anything, and the guy spills everything. I'm not a soldier. One of them's a man who escaped from North Korea, and the other two are just students. Right away, Songbin's face changes. He asks, "Wait, what? A man from North Korea?" The man nods. Then Songbin asks something specific. Was there a tall girl among them, around 1.70 meters with long black hair? The man says, "I remember the group and there wasn't any girl. There was an older man around 50, the North Korean guy, and a boy with glasses." Then Songbin asks, the man from North Korea, was his name Kang Hakyul? The man replies that his friend talked to him over the radio and thinks that might have been the name, though he's not completely sure. Songbin says, "Kang Hakyul, Jung Minjin, and Henina. They're my friends. I've been looking for them. I really miss them." The man, still confused, asks, "You're sure?" And Songbin nods, saying yes, he needs to help them, then asks if they're in that house. The man says, "Well, judging by those gunshots, maybe something went wrong over there too. On the other hand, they went to get a working ambulance, so there's a chance they survived. The problem is, with my leg like this, I can't move unless I find some kind of vehicle or something. Do you think you could help me find a motorcycle or anything like that?" But Songbin isn't listening to a single word. He's thinking to himself, house, ambulance, hotel, sky, not bad. I didn't expect to get all that, but it really helped, old man. The man asks, "What are you talking about?" Songbin says he's going to grab something from his backpack to help him. After all, there's a good chance he's going to die soon anyway. The man agrees, saying that's true, but asks what he's planning to get. Obviously, Songbin replies that he's going to do him a favor, help him die quickly, since he's not getting out of this apocalypse alive. The man, terrified and confused, stammers, "What are you talking about?" Songbin tilts his head and says, "Aren't you scared of dying alone? Don't worry, I'll help you." Then come the screams, the sounds of stabbing echo through the place. But finally, something goes wrong for him. His motorcycle runs out of gas. Still, now he knows what he needs to do. He just has to figure out where the Sky Hotel is. 2 days later, we're back with the protagonist. He says, but in the game's story, there was nothing about zombie immunity. If Daniel Jin was trying to recreate the game in reality, maybe there was some kind of bug or something. Van replies, "I heard there are people trying to develop a vaccine. Minjin, if you really are immune, then you're literally humanity's last hope." He says that either way, they still need to make sure he's actually immune first. They'd have to find a team of doctors or something to observe him. "Minjin, don't you realize they'd dissect you alive? I wouldn't want to be anyone's research subject. They'd definitely kill me just to study my cells." Hakyul then says that honestly, this whole zombie game theory sounds crazy. What's really stuck in his head are those weapons the men had. One of them had a Desert Eagle. You don't just find those in Korea. Minjin replies, "If I remember right, there's a shooting range in Myeongdong. Maybe they got it from there." Hakyul says that would make sense, but wonders how a gun could have made its way from there to here. Either way, something feels off. Now that Minjin's feeling better, it's time for them to get moving again. Heijin says he'll let his parents know, and Hakyul adds that before anything, he's going to check the best route to Gunja. There's still about 5 or 6 kilometers away, and at least 2 or 3 could be covered by car. The protagonist offers to help, but Yena quickly refuses, saying he's not going anywhere. "What if you collapse again?" He looks confused. "I'm fine now, can't you see?" But she insists if he goes, she's going too because she's not letting him go alone. Hakyul chimes in, "Yena, you're acting weird. Why do you want to stick to Minjin like glue?" Her face turns bright red, embarrassed and angry. "It's not like that. He almost died, and now that he's awake, he's already trying to run off again. Something's not right." The protagonist starts to ask why she's so mad, but she shoves him and snaps, "Do whatever you want, die alone, idiot." Minjin still doesn't really get it, but doesn't dwell on it either. "Let's go, Hakyul." Yena, stunned, thinks that idiot actually left me here. "Fool, I got tricked." Meanwhile, outside, it's probably that bastard again, Songbin. He's found the ambulance, muttering, "Damn it." He searched everywhere, but finally finds the damn Sky Motel. Chapter 23, The Demon of the Sky Motel. This guy Songbin is insane. He's thinking, just imagining seeing Yena again is enough to get me excited. But then he stops. Wait a second. That bastard Hakyul. The man said he had a gun. If that guy's really inside, that puts me at a huge disadvantage. I better think this through. Then he notices the entrance is partially blocked. He hears footsteps approaching and quickly hides. Hakyul says, "Minjin, do you want to hold on to the rifle?" The protagonist answers, but it only has 1 bullet. "Are you out of your mind?" Hakyul replies, "That's exactly why. Besides, I've already learned how to use it." The protagonist is still curious and says, "Hakyul, tell us your story. How did you escape from North Korea?" Hakyul answers that telling the whole story would take days, especially since he escaped without a goat, someone who helps you cross the border. The protagonist says it's hard to believe since everyone says it's impossible to make it from North Korea to China without a guide. Hakyul nods, saying it's almost impossible and that he had to fight for his life. From a distance, that man is just watching. Dan, Hakyul, and Minjin are heading out. Crap, that guy actually has a gun. Are they going out to scout around? That means Yena's alone and defenseless inside the hotel. Even if there's another man in there, he's definitely not more dangerous than me. Moments later, zombies are swarming through a garage while Minjin and Hakyul move cautiously inside. The protagonist asks if he's ever used a gun before, even as a kid. Hakyul says yes. The first time he killed someone with a gun, he was still a child. What the hell? He really is a demon. He explains that his uncle managed to escape North Korea, and because of that, his whole family was branded as traitors. His relatives were taken away, tortured, and most likely killed. After that, a particular soldier kept coming to torment him and his little sister. One day, while being beaten again, that same soldier let his guard down and Hakyul managed to grab the gun and pull the trigger. That was the same day he began his journey with his brother. He was only 12 years old. The protagonist is shocked. When I was 12, I was eating instant noodles and playing League of Legends. He asks if everyone in the North is like Hakyul, and Hakyul says no. Most people aren't seasoned survivors. They're weaker, thinner, and smaller. Honestly, I'm not special either. I just have a lot of experience because I spent 2 years running for my life. The protagonist asks, well, do you ever plan on going back? Hakyul replies, of course not. Never. The scene shifts to room 203. Yena looks gloomy and her mother asks, girl, Yena, why are you so sad? She answers that she doesn't really know. It's just that her friends have been annoying lately. Minjin's weak, but he keeps going out there and risking his life. Her mother tells her she should be grateful since he's risking himself for everyone there. And Hakyul's with him too, so you don't need to worry. Yena nods, saying she agrees. She doesn't worry as much when Hakyul is around, but she's still confused. She doesn't really understand her feelings, she's just upset, and they irritate her. If both of them die out there, what am I supposed to do? Her mother looks at her and asks, Yena, do you like your friend? Ayana freezes for a second, wide-eyed. Of course not. Her mother smiles gently and says, you might not know yet, or maybe you already do. Now the poor girl's left wondering, do I actually like that idiot Minjin? No way. But then she keeps thinking about him. Why am I thinking about him so much? Maybe from an outsider's point of view, it would make sense. But she concludes that's not it. It's not that she likes him. It's just that now he's the only person she can really rely on. That's all. Then she remembers Minjin saying, Lana, you've changed a lot, even caring about a loser like me. At that moment, she realizes she really has changed. The world's ended and now everyone's on equal ground. Before the apocalypse, she wasn't just from a rich family. Everyone thought her life was perfect. And her mother would still say, what are those shorts? Pull them down, your butt's showing. She used to buy whatever she wanted, had everything she wanted, and just walking down the street would get 4 or 5 guys hitting on her. The truth is, she knows no one could resist her, except for that guy from high school. Or maybe he was the exception. Now I'm confused. Of course not. He always hit on her. As far as I remember, the jerk she called a beggar. So she concludes that maybe she's starting to like Minjin because he doesn't like her. She wonders, if every other guy throws themselves at me, why isn't that loser doing anything? That trash should be throwing himself at me, begging for my attention, but he just sits there like a wooden doll. She gets angrier and angrier. Now I get it. Because this loser doesn't move, I hack this way. He thinks he's too good for me. While she's having this monologue and her mother's watching, they suddenly hear footsteps. Someone's knocking at the door and her mother asks, Honey, Heijin? But there's no answer. She wonders, could Hakyul and Minjin be back already? Yana tells her to calm down, but the knocking continues. Yana calls out, Answer me. Who's there? Through the peephole, the hallway looks empty, but sitting off to the side is the psycho. He's thinking, wow, what do I do? I'm more nervous than when we were in school. I'm sure that's Yaina's voice, and there was another woman's voice too. Room 202, I'll mark that for now. There could be another guy around here, so I better check the other rooms. He walks on, certain of himself. Those marked with an X weren't meant for him to enter. Probably some infected in there. Then he sees room 206, which isn't marked. He knocks and someone says, Wait, Heijin. But when Jaehyun opens the door thinking it's his mother, it's actually Songban. Jaehyun asks, Who are you? Songban answers, Who do you think? I'm here for Yena. Jaehyun's startled, confused. Songban says goodbye and tells him to die. Of course, Jaehyun sees in the background his father being pierced in the abdomen. He goes crazy crying, begging him not to do that to his father, but Songban kicks him in the chest, sending him flying. The girls outside hear the screams. The mother wants to look, but Yena tells her to stay calm. She grabs the combat knife from her backpack and opens the door. At that exact moment, Hakyul and Minjin arrive, yelling for her to get back inside. Hakyul swings the door, aims, and finds Songbin with his back to him, shouting at the man's body, demanding an answer. Immediately, Hakyul says, Don't move, you trash. He's got him in his sights. Songbin stands, turns around, and Hakyul says, There's a bullet here, Songbin, and it's for you. Goodbye. He pulls the trigger, but the shot fails. Instantly, he drops the gun, draws that knife from his back, and Songbin starts moving closer. Chapter 24, I'm the person who's going to kill you. A little earlier, Minjin had stopped and Hakyul asked, What's wrong? The protagonist replies, I don't know, but it feels like the symptoms are coming back, and he shows the wound. Indeed, the thing is starting to spread again. He adds, I feel a bit dizzy and I think my fever's coming back. I was fine before, so why is this happening? Hakiel says, no, let's go back then. You shouldn't be pushing yourself. At least I'll walk with you to the hotel door. Minjin thanks him but wonders why this is happening again right now. Just as they reach the door, they hear a scream. As he enters, he tells Yena to hide in the room. He levels his aim and comes face to face with Songban, saying, I have a bullet and it's for you. Bye. But when the trigger fails and Songban notices, he starts closing in. Hakiel had to drop the gun, pulled the knife from his back, managed to block Songban's attack, and went to stab him in the belly, but the bastard managed to defend using his arm. Then he swings his arm aside and lands a kick to Songban's chest, but the guy just stands there squared up, while Songban curses, you piece of shit. Hakiel says, looks like MMA really does teach you block attacks. Songban's looking at Hakiel and thinking, how many stab wounds did I take in that short instant? Looks like it was more than one. He's thinking, this bastard's gonna hit some vital spot eventually, and that's the end of me. If I try to take this guy down to the ground, he'll stab my back and I'll die. Not to mention that damn Minjin is right behind me. Hakiel asks, how many people have you killed with that knife? You made it this far with the kitchen blade. You must have offed some survivors. Even worse, you came all this way to attack an innocent professor. You're clearly crazy. But Hakiel admits he's crazy too. Stab me trash like Songban gets him fired up. Songban suddenly sounds scared. Hakiel, why should we fight each other? Let's make a deal. I only want Yena and Minjin, okay? They ruined my warehouse and killed all my friends. Hand over those 2 pieces of trash and I'll leave. No one gets hurt. Hakiel fires back, you liar. If that's true, why did you attack that professor? Songban changes tone and challenges him. Stop being a coward who fights with a knife. Let's have an honest fight. Drop the knives and let's do this with fists, or are you scared of a fair fight? Hakiel cuts him off, ending the drama with another knife strike that forces Songban to defend again. Only now he's severely injured in the hand. Songban's face goes red. He explodes, demanding the bastard answer. But then his expression shifts and he trembles. Please let me go this once. He raises his hands and says, sorry for attacking that man. He might not be dead yet. I'll do whatever it takes to keep him alive. Hakiel looks at him and says, sorry, but your crimes can only be paid with death. I'm ending this now. Songban says fine, then grabs his backpack to shield his chest, and knowing he's going to lose an arm, decides at least he'll try to kill Hakiel and throws himself forward. Hakiel is taken aback and for a moment doesn't know how to react, and the man lunges with his hand on the knife. He plants his other foot behind the leg and manages to fall on top of Hakiel, seemingly pinning him with an arm so he can't strike. Hakiel's face goes red while Songban says the bastard had underestimated him. But then he's shocked. Minjin is coming at him with a bat. From his face, it looks like he's about to swing, but then a pain hits the abdomen. My god, this can't be happening. Hakiel's shouting for Minjin. His eyes roll, he drops the knife, and he passes out. Unbelievable. How can he faint so fast? Songban turns, frightened, saying the bastard was going to smash his head in, asking if the damned kid really wants him dead, while the protagonist wonders why everything sped up all of a sudden. His whole face is flushed and he says he can't even stand. The dizziness is hitting him hard. I want to blame him, but you can't know how hard it is to deal with the outbreak. Take it easy. Songban says, well, with Hakiel down, only the kids left. It's just great that I lost my hand because of this bastard. I'll make sure you don't walk away from this. But Minjin's losing it. He drops the bat, is screaming, and Songban looks and asks, what's happening? Seeing the protagonist, he wonders, what happened? Did that guy get infected? If that's the case, I'll have to kill him anyway. But then Minjin turns and starts banging on room 205, the one marked with a red X. Songban, confused, says, wait, are there zombies in that room? The protagonist keeps pounding while Songban tells him to wake up to reality. Why would he rather be bitten by zombies than die at his hands? Songban moves in, saying he won't allow that. Then the doorknob finally turns and the protagonist falls in there. Songban stands frozen, not understanding, and the zombies begin coming out of the room. Does the protagonist have immunity? He's standing behind all of them, just watching. Songban can't make sense of it. Hakiel asks what Minjin did. The protagonist is just there in the background, staring. Flashback to that day when a bunch of thugs gathered at Minjin's house. Songban had said, Minjin, dance for us before Yena shows up. He even told him to take off his underwear and dance. What the hell, Songban? What the hell? The protagonist gets thrown to the floor, kicked in the spine, hammered, hit with a brick, kicked in the stomach, cursed at, yeah, delightful stuff. The protagonist realizes his life sucked because of that guy. Then suddenly, he yells for the zombies to kill that piece of shit Songban. What the hell? Can the protagonist control zombies? The monsters obey and start running. Hakiel lies bewildered on the floor. He sees the adjacent door and has no idea what's happening, but decides the best move is to get into one of the rooms. He tries a door while Songban has to fight the first zombie. Songban slashes to the side and finishes it, but another one comes at him. The bastard lands multiple hits to the head. He calls for that shitty Minjin and looks around, but the kid isn't there. He wonders where the bastard went. More zombies appear in the background. Songban is terrified. Inside the room, Hakyul is baffled, wondering what happened to Minjin. He's entered Jaehan's room and the kid inside is calling for his father. Meanwhile, down the corridor, the zombies are heading towards Songban. He spots room 210. With no better option, decides to go inside and slams the door shut. A bunch of them pile up outside, but of course there was another one inside. As zombies pound the door, the protagonist stands calm in the hallway. Inside the room, Hakyul's shouting for the professor, asking if he's okay. The poor man says it's over for him. Hakyul asks what he's talking about. This wound, we can save you. There's medical gear and supplies, it's fine. But the professor says the problem isn't the wound, it's the knife that was used. Hakyul tells him to relax, they don't even know if he was infected. They'll run to the ambulance now, grab some meds, stop the bleeding, and everything will be fine. He steps into the corridor and sees Minjin standing in front of a door. Hakyul asks what happened, and the protagonist points inside the room, a bunch of zombies locked in there. It looks like Songban escaped through a window. Hakyul notes, I noticed the infected didn't attack you. The protagonist just says he's not sure. But he's realized that when the symptoms of this disease activate, the infected don't attack. He just doesn't know why the symptoms come and go. He asks about the professor. Hakyul says the wound isn't too bad. Before he can explain more, the mother and Yana arrive, asking how the professor is. The professor tells Yana to apply pressure to the wound while he goes to fetch supplies from the ambulance. Meanwhile, the protagonist has the gun and asks if that last bullet will fire now. Hakyul takes out the magazine, reloads it, pulls the trigger, hears the click of a properly loaded gun, and says, now this should work. He says that bastard Songban can't be far because he's lost too much blood, but first they need to take care of the professor. Wow. But the protagonist says no, he wants to kill those men with his own hands. All he asks is that they look after the professor. Is the protagonist really going hunting? And he does. Alright, let's see what happens. He's following the trail of blood down the street. The problem is the symptoms in his arm are starting to fade. If he doesn't move fast, soon the zombies will start noticing him. Blood on the ground, hordes of zombies running. Songban, exhausted, says he has to survive no matter what. He hides behind a pillar, but he's covered in blood. He knows he needs medical treatment fast and calls himself an idiot for not stealing that ambulance before he escaped. In another house, the blood trail leads inside. He's there, rifling through drawers. He mutters that there's got to be a first aid kit somewhere in this damn place. Now he's almost dying because of that damned Hakyul. But then he hears footsteps behind him. When he turns around, Minjin is there. Songban looks confused, wondering what he's doing there. The protagonist calmly says that for some strange reason, the smell of his blood was everywhere. Songban says, Minjin, I don't know what trick you pulled, but why don't the infected attack you? And besides, a fool like you doesn't know how to use a gun like that. Not to mention it didn't fire last time, so it's not gonna work. Also, Minjin, have you ever even killed anyone before? The protagonist answers that no, he's never killed anyone, not even an infected. He survived all this time without killing. But today, Songban will be his first. He raises the gun and aims. Songban laughs, saying he's never met anyone this pathetic. Then he warns, Jum Minjin, you can't kill me. That's because you're a good kid, not a bastard like me. The world's ended, and you still think you're gonna stay pure. You know what will happen if you kill me, Minjin? You really think you won't be punished? You think you'll live peacefully after taking a person's life? He's saying all this, but he's clearly terrified. He finishes, it's because I kept picking on you, right? I'm sorry I messed up. You're right. I thought we were friends, that it was all just fun, you know? I feel bad for everything I did. But through the scope, the protagonist just says that even if the world hadn't ended, garbage like him doesn't deserve to live. He pulls the trigger. Boom. Headshot. The whole room's splattered. My god, Minjin, you're insane. The kid drops the gun, shaking, terrified. But look at his work. On the floor, lifeless. Finally, our protagonist turning into something else. First headshot down, and he's got immunity on top of it. Now Minjin's walking through the streets, feeling unstoppable like he's Superman, forgetting the infection's already faded. But his expression changes when he sees Yana standing there. She runs to him, hugs him, starts crying, saying the professor's dead. Or is he? Turns out he's lying in bed saying, honey. The guy's smiling more than I am reading this. He says, see, I told you I'm fine. He looks at Heijin, who's crying, and says he never mentioned it before. But the truth is, he's had cancer for months. He wouldn't have lived much longer anyway, so it's okay. They shouldn't be sad. All he wants now is for them to focus on finding his sister. That's life. Everyone dies sooner or later. It's only a matter of when. He says he had a friend who died a year after his son was born and others who met death much earlier. Just seeing how much his son has grown and how healthy he is makes him happy. His life's been perfect. So he tells them not to cry. Don't be so optimistic like that, or you'll make me even sadder. Our protagonist stands still watching. Sometime later, that father turns out to be joking too. He says what he told Heijin was a lie. Hakyul tells him to explain, and he admits that, yes, the cancer wasn't real. He only said that to make the boy less sad, because if the kid realized his father was dying like this, it would be even harder for him to handle. So all he asks is that they keep it a secret. That was the last thing he could do as a father. He's incredibly calm about it. In the end, he accepts everything, saying that either way, he's lived long enough and had a good life. The only thing he still wanted was to see his daughter, Haeun. So all he asks from Hakyul is to help his family find her. And to his wife, he asks her to take care of their son and daughter. The mother's crying, and when characters in this story make a sad face, it's really bad. Hachiel starts leaving, and the man's final words are that once he stops being human, they shouldn't kill him or open the door. Just leave him locked up, and he'll die of hunger. Or maybe one day it'll develop a cure and come back for him. That was the only chance he had left. With that, Hachiel looks at the man lying there, turns around and leaves. On the hotel rooftop, Yena asks, "Do you think there'll really be a cure someday?" Hachiel answers, "Well, I'm no doctor, so I can't say for sure, but nothing's impossible, especially because, strangely enough, just like the professor said, when someone gets infected, they stop being human and don't even need to eat anymore. Of course, it would be better if a cure appeared soon, but there's not much they can do now." Then Yena asks what happened back in the hallway. Hachiel explains that for some reason, the infected didn't attack Minjin. He turns to the protagonist and adds, "Minjin, it looked like you gave them orders." Yena looks confused, saying that doesn't make any sense. Minjin giving commands to the infected? The protagonist explains, "Well, not exactly. I was just really angry and shouted. It doesn't make any sense to think they actually listened and attacked Songban. They probably just ran at him because he was the only one who wasn't infected." Heijin then says, "It seems that when you have those symptoms, they don't attack you. Maybe the symptoms will come back again." The protagonist agrees but admits he has no idea when that might happen. He pauses to think. In Rage Z, that zombie game, there was a certain commander of the hordes. They said he was the only person completely conscious in the world of the infected, basically someone who could still think like a human and command the zombies to act intelligently. Of course, he doesn't think he's become some kind of king of the dead, but his symptoms come and go. When they disappear, the infected attack him again, so it's as if he's not fully infected or immune, more like it's some strange side effect. Now, whether he can actually control those monsters or not, he'll have to test it next time the symptoms appear. But then doubt creeps into Yena's mind. She's thinking, wait, if Minjin's infected like that, couldn't I catch it from him? It's dangerous to be near him. She's already thinking, well, if that's the case, that means I can't kiss him or even, she won't be able to share love. Not that she wanted to, she claims. It's just that if his body's infected, it means he can't share love with anyone. But then again, it's not like he's going to stay a virgin forever, or at least, that's what she thinks. Whatever, she just looks sad now with that pitiful expression, thinking his life's going to be miserable. He's going to die a virgin, apparently. Meanwhile, Minjin just sees the crazy girl standing there with her back turned, lost in her imagination. A while later, Hachiel asks if they've forgotten anything, and the mother answers yes. He tells Minjin that he's going to drive even though he doesn't have a license. But it's not like that matters now. He looks at Heijin, who's all sad. Then he tells Minjin to sit with Yena and their mother in the back. He'll ride up front with the kid. They still have to decide how far to go by car, since at some point the car becomes more dangerous than going on foot. In the ambulance, he calls to Heijin and tells the boy he escaped North Korea when he was the same age. At 12, his parents were already dead. He escaped with his younger siblings, who were 7 and 9. They went through so much, he even lost his little brother along the way. Back then, he had no choice but to accept things. He had to run desperately and didn't have time to grieve. He has no words of comfort beyond that, but what matters is if they find the sister, he's the only one who can protect her and their mother, so he has to keep his head straight. He's not a normal kid anymore. That settles it. It gives the boy a purpose. Now he'll focus on saving everyone and maybe ease the pain of his father's death. Look at the boy's face, focused like someone who's accepted the mission. Suddenly, Hachiel's expression changes and he says something's coming. A spiked armored car pulls up, carrying a zombie mounted on a cross. Everyone's asking what the hell that vehicle is and why it's heading their way. He tells everyone to duck while they stare in confusion. Hachiel says, "I have no idea who's inside that thing, but whoever they are, they're dangerous." Chapter 27, The Road to Gunja Station. Yena inside is scared, asking what it is. Minjin is confused. The zombie on the stake is alive but dead. The worst part is the car stops beside the ambulance and Hachiel wonders if the people inside know they're there. He's already reaching for his knife, saying they'll have to fight at close range. If there's more than 2 of them, it'll be dangerous. An infected approaches, a window on the armored car slides open, and a silenced shot hits the zombie in the head. Someone inside says, "Wow, that was a headshot." Another answers, "Of course it was. The zombie was right next to you, kid." Someone else adds, "But those survivors? Looks like they all died. There's nobody here." The man agrees, guessing they must have left as soon as they heard the vehicle. After all, this whole thing is pretty terrifying. Still, whatever, they've got to focus on scavenging food for the others. The car drives off. Hachiel calms down and says it looks like they're leaving for now. They need to move fast, though he already has a bad feeling. They follow the road, and Hachiel's relieved that, at least along this stretch, the way's clear. They should be about 1 to 2 kilometers from Gunja Station, so maybe it's time to start walking. But then he looks back and sees the armored car following them. Immediately, he floors it. This just got complicated, and tries to cut away from the men. But the guys are hot on their tail, speeding after them down the street. The worst part, the route ahead is blocked. He spots a parking ramp to the side, knowing it might have infected inside, but it's probably better than staying out in the open. Unfortunately, the ramp is blocked too. At this rate, they won't have any options. He says, This is a dead end. We'll have to deal with them. He tells everyone to stay inside the vehicle and get ready because something's about to happen. He'll check who they are, but the others warn Haxiel to be careful. He's hoping maybe they're friendly, but obviously, if they're hostile, there's no choice but to fight. The problem is he's got a rifle with no bullets and an improvised dagger. You can't tell what kind of weapons those people have, but if they step out of that car armed, things will get a lot worse. He glances sideways and sees at least the armored vehicle isn't moving down the ramp. The guys seem to be waiting up there. Then one of them gets out wearing a helmet and says, "Buddy, you told me to go alone." "Never mind. Okay, this time I'll go. But if it's not worth turning them into slaves, I'll kill them. And there's no way they're more dangerous than me." Wow, turn into slaves. Right away, Haxiel knows that weapon is dangerous. They have to leave fast. He opens the ambulance and tells everyone they have to run, then asks how the protagonist's symptoms are. The kid's a little dazed and says he's fine, which in this moment is the worst answer. He asks, "Yena, can you sense any zombies?" She says yes, but not many, maybe 4 or 5 at most. They start moving through the area and spot infected nearby, but there's no good alternative. They manage to pass without drawing attention, and at least for now, the way ahead is clear. Haxiel says, "Minjin, you'll take everyone up top and find someplace secure. One of those guys got out of the car and is coming to the first floor, so be careful." Minjin asks what Haxiel plans to do. Haxiel answers, "Well, the guy's alone. Even with a gun, I can handle him." The protagonist says no, he's out of bullets. Haxiel says he knows. He'll try to lure and distract the man for as long as possible while the others go up on the roof, scavenge whatever they can and hide. Minjin says he understands but tells Haxiel to be careful. Haxiel says fine and turns back toward the parking area. The infected are running toward the man. Good news is, even with a silencer, if he fires, the sound will draw more infected to him. The problem is the guy's shooting a lot. It looks like he's got plenty of ammo. What Haxiel can't figure out is how anyone in this apocalypse got a silenced rifle and that much ammunition. He says he'll help, but thinks to himself, if this gets truly dangerous, I'll have to run alone. They head up to the second floor, find the reception area, push forward, and come to what looks like a classroom. Yana sits down and says it would be nice if Haxiel were safe. Minjin tells everyone to wait there. He's going to help the guy. She grabs his hand and tells him not to go. She wants him to stay close. Are you crazy? He has to stop that man, or he'll go up and kill everyone. But she's trying to convince the protagonist, saying she's worried about Haxiel, and that the other side has a gun, and that's dangerous. Besides, Haxiel told them to wait, so it's best to stay put for now. The protagonist hesitates but says okay. Time passes. Everyone's sitting. Minjin decides to check and approaches, hearing some noises. He's not sure if it's gunfire or someone banging. From the thuds, Yana says it's not Haxiel. It's definitely infected. Chapter 28. Get those bastards out of here now. Someone on the other side of the door calls out, "Why won't this open? Is someone inside?" It sounds like 2 voices and Yana is confused. Are they infected? Maybe special infected? From the other side, someone says, "Weird. This was open a few days ago. Shit, I hid all my stuff in there. Did someone actually get in?" Suddenly, Minjin starts acting oddly. He moves close to the door while Yana tells him to back off. They were definitely infected, but he steps up and turns the doorknob, and it's them. The self-proclaimed king of McDonald's and the school hottie, Byonjin and Sunho. The protagonist asks what they're doing there. His friends go, "Minjin, what are you doing here?" Then they see Yana and remember her. She covers her nose and says they don't smell human. Byonjin asks, "What's Amina doing here?" That do, Minjin and her, is kind of weird. The protagonist says he'll explain later but tells them to come in now. Yena's holding her nose, saying they're infected. She backs away and yells to get those bastards out of here. They're confused. No one here's infected. She humiliates them, saying they smell like rotten pork, like corpses, every disgusting smell. Minjin sniffs and says yeah, they smell bad, though he's always been a bit stinky anyway. He apologizes and says he hasn't showered in days. The poor guy gets mortified beyond belief. A little later, the protagonist asks, "Hold on, did you come from Gunja Station?" Sunho explains, "Well, if you're over 18 there, you have to patrol. That's how we keep the numbers up, and right now we've got about 400 people. Gunja Station doesn't have room, so we're expanding into nearby buildings. This place is only 2 kilometers away, so it's just a temporary base. We didn't expect to find me here, Minjin." The mother grabs her phone and shows a photo of a girl, asking if they've seen her. Her name's Seo Hakyeon. Sunho says he thinks so. Byonjin says he might have seen her near the exit of Gunja. By the photo, she looks familiar, they say. The mother lights up and asks if she's okay. Sunho says, "I think so. We only saw her once passing by, so can't be certain." He suggests we can head straight to base and check properly. The protagonist says that's true, but they've got an issue. Did they see men carrying guns in an armored vehicle on the way? A weird vehicle with armor all around. Yena, still covering her nose, says, "Yeah, we were driving and they started following us and Haxiel said they had guns." The men tell her to take her hand off her mouth and ask, "Wait, Haxiel is that guy who escaped from North Korea?" The protagonist says yes, he's that kid from school. Minjin adds he said he'd try to draw those guys away, but it's been 30 minutes and he still hasn't come back. Sunho replies, "When we arrived, no one was nearby. Want us to check the roof?" The protagonist agrees, but oddly Yana grabs his hand and says, "Minjin, stay here with me. Isn't it better to just send those two to look? Or if not, take her with you. They stare, both a little confused by how close Yen is getting. He says don't worry, he's just going to check the roof with his friends and scout the area. She says that's fine. There's no way these men will betray our protagonist. Look at their faces, doesn't look like villain faces, no way. They climb the stairs to the roof. The protagonist scans around and indeed the armored vehicle isn't there. He says the vehicle should have been right out front. Is Hachiel still alive? If the enemy had fired, I'd have heard it, unless they used suppressors. Even with suppressors, you'd hear something. Suddenly, Byonjin grabs him by the throat and the obvious happens. The fat guy wants to know if he's dating Yena. He asks, are you crazy? Yena and I aren't anything. Byonjin snarls, you're lying. If you don't tell the truth, I'll throw you off this building. Sunho says, Byonjin, Yena's not like that. She openly hates every loser like us. She's the school's goddess. Don't worry, she's just a damn liar using Minjin. Still, she's so amazing I'd forgive her for it. The ultimate worshipper. Byonjin adds that when she looks at him with disgust, he doesn't even mind. The protagonist mutters that they're both psychopaths. Now they start mocking the protagonist, demanding to know why he, the person she hated the most, is suddenly close to her. If that's not dating, then what is? Minjin tells them to calm down, he'll explain. Since the beginning of this whole mess, they've been together. The guys get irritated that he keeps calling her just Yena. Clearly, it's a relationship. Minjin explains that the only reason she seems a bit attached is because she panics whenever they get separated. It's got to do with her missing family. Apparently, he's someone she can rely on now. Byonjin keeps pressing. If that's not dating, then what is, huh? How far did you two go? The protagonist snaps and tells them to quit that nonsense. The important thing right now is finding Hachiel. Then Sunho mentions he heard some gunshots near the warehouse too, but there are so many people stationed there that he doubts it's the same person. The protagonist asks, but how are you guys even okay? Your weapons are just axes. How do you deal with people who have guns? Byonjin says they're fine. They've got radios. When they get surrounded by zombies, they call for backup and the ones with firearms handle it. But it's been a while since they've heard from that group, so maybe those people fled. He's not sure if it's the same crowd who were around the station back then. Sunho says, if you're worried about Hachiel, we can head to Gunja right away. The protagonist hesitates and Sunho adds, you should take the chance. The place is getting crowded and they're being strict about who they let in. You've got a good shot since you're with us. After a few checks, they'll probably allow it. Then Minjin notices that the radio they're using is the same model as Hachiel's. He remembers it belonged to that older man and asks if they can try connecting to him. But then he realizes Hachiel didn't take his radio, it's still in the backpack. Byonjin says he'll try anyway and speaks into it. This is Byonjin. I'm at the Grand Plaza on Shionho Avenue. We found 4 survivors. They're friends from our school. Can we bring them back? The reply comes, even if they're friends, they have to go to the Hope Hospital for infection testing and stay in quarantine for at least 1 full day. That's bad for Minjin. A whole day, the chances of his infection flaring up are high and quarantine would be the worst possible situation for him. He's alarmed, but his friends reassure him. It's fine. They know the rules. Everyone gets tested. It's just that one of our group members went missing. We have to find him first. If it gets too late, we'll come in tomorrow. The voice on the radio confirms and asks them to report any other details if needed. Minjin asks, wait, do I really have to be tested to enter that place? Byonjin answers, of course, it's the rule. But relax, the whole clinic's close to the base. There are real doctors there, and know exactly who's infected and who's not. The protagonist asks, and if someone tests positive? Byonjin replies, obviously if someone's infected, they'll turn and be executed. But Minjin, why are you even asking? Are you infected? Or is someone in your group? The protagonist instinctively covers his wound. He knows that if they test him and find out he's infected, things could get a whole lot worse. But then we see they're being watched from another building. Someone says, I found survivors on top of the building along Shionho Avenue. 3 men. 2 of them have green armbands, so they're definitely from Gunja Station. On the other end of the radio, a voice asks, and what about the man from the ambulance who escaped? The skull-masked man replies, one of our guys went after him, but it seems they had a K2 rifle. If that man really had that kind of weapon, things could get complicated. We only have melee weapons, so for now, we can't deal with that. One of our people already died because of him. Whoa, did Heijin kill someone? The voice replies, if they're from Gunja, capture them alive. But if they resist, kill everyone. Chapter 29, Isolation. After receiving the order, the skull-masked man mutters, damn it, how am I supposed to hunt down that guy with the K2 rifle? The last man who went after him never came back. How am I supposed to handle a whole group by myself? And they're all men. I don't even know how many there are in that building. First, I'll have to scout, figure out how many there are and which floor they're staying on. After that, I'll just kill them all. Up on the roof, Minjin's thinking Sunho and Byonjin are probably the friends I can trust the most. Should I tell them about my infection? But would they even believe me if I said I'm immune? What if I get tested and I'm not? What if I'm just some kind of asymptomatic infected? Either way, every option's dangerous. Maybe I should send everyone to Gunja without me. But we still need an actual doctor's diagnosis. I need to find a solution. I just don't know how I'll tell them. For now, I should focus on finding Hachiel. Inside the building, time passes. Byongjin holds the walkie-talkie, but there's still no response. He says, if that Hakyul guy was in trouble and still had his radio, he would have answered by now. Minjin thinks he'll wait a bit longer, but if Hakyul doesn't show up, he'll have to go looking for him. They hear something crash behind them, but decide to ignore it. We cut to the nearby building. The masked man stands by the window watching, fully aware they're inside that room. He hears their voices coming from it and confirms most of the other doors are closed. He's already lured some infected nearby to trap them inside. Time to start the plan. Back in the room, Yena says, you losers guard the door. Stay away from me. Go protect the entrance. Suddenly, everyone hears glass shattering. Minjin flinches, runs out to check, and races across the hallway to see that one of the rooms is on fire. He shouts for them to grab a fire extinguisher, but then another room bursts into flames too. He says their location's been exposed and they have to move now. At that moment, Byongjin, thinking fast, grabs his radio and reports that they're under attack by unknown individuals and need assistance. Everyone starts packing their things, and he adds that they don't know how many enemies there are but need to move fast. Yen is confused. Why did Minjin stop in front of the door? She tells him to wait, but the problem becomes obvious. The stairwell is full of zombies. He wonders when the hell they got there and slams the door shut. Then he warns the others the emergency exit's overrun with infected. Clearly, someone led them there. And of course, the good old symptom starts again. He remembers when he was with Songban, the moment it activated, the infected stopped attacking him. But why did it trigger this time? At that moment, he's furious at Songban, then suddenly he starts screaming and writhing. I thought he was in pain, but he's yelling, Songban, you bastard. I guess he's trying to remember what he felt before to force the symptom to kick in maybe. The others ask how long until backup arrives, and Byongjin says they're nearby, maybe 10 minutes, but you never know. With that many infected on the stairs, it could take longer. The protagonist steals himself, confident. He says, I'll lure the infected and get them to come up the stairs. While they're distracted, you guys escape to another place. We don't know how many are out there, so avoid open areas as much as possible. Sunho and Yena freak out, asking if he's crazy, if he's going to get bitten and infected. The protagonist hands over his backpack and insists they got no other chance. He tells Sunho to hold on to it, that he'll handle things. If they get separated and don't meet again, they'll see each other at Gunja Station. He begs his friends to look after Yena and his mother. She's screaming for him to stay, but he bolts and she can't stop him. He's unbelievably sure of himself. He runs up the stairs, calling to the infected, and goes to the upper floor, bat in hand, thinking it's fine. If he really is immune, better him get bitten than his friends. The only thing immunity can't save you from is being mutilated to death, so it has to be a quick bite, not slow torture. When he looks back, there are way more of them following than he expected. He reaches the edge and thinks maybe he can run around, circle them, and get back inside. But as he arrives at the ledge, a huge wave of zombies is bearing down on him. If he falls from that height, that's death. He remembers the first day when everything started. He went to Yena's apartment, ready to jump with no parachute. If he hadn't found her that day, it would have been his last. He tells himself he's alive because of her. Now, weirdly, he'll do anything to survive. He promised her they'd make it together, so he won't die that easily. He shouts back the hordes to come at him, then jumps like he's not scared at all. It wasn't an impossible height, but it was risky. He just has to get from one side to the other. I'd definitely be terrified. While he jumps, Yena and the others are coming down the stairs. Up front, the friends say the path is clear and tell Yena to hurry. Minjin manages to land on the other side, but he crashes through some tables, hits his shoulder on the floor, and ends up wrecked. He overdid it, and now his foot seems hurt, an imperfect fall. The skull-masked man appears and says, I would have killed everyone if I couldn't capture them, but you showed up alone. Lucky me. The protagonist asks who they are and who he is. The man just says, you from Gunja? Before Minjin can answer, he gets kicked in the wound. The man says, I saw you with the Gunja crew. What are you doing here? The protagonist writhes, complaining that of all places he had to get kicked in his wound. The man radios in, captured a Gunja member. Come over here, I'll try to extract some info. Minjin looks up and takes a boot to the face. Wow. Chapter 30, Torture. The group at least gets into a games room. Byongjin receives a message from Kim Dongjin. I'm in front of the building. Byongjin says, okay, we're coming out. He thanks them and says, the team captain's here and said we can go. Yena, however, says they can go. She's going to wait. The friends, confused, say, why? Minjin said he'd meet us at the station. This place is dangerous, so we should at least make sure we get out alive. She asks, you're really just going to leave him behind? We still haven't found Hakyul. I'm not going anywhere until we find them. Jesus, these friends are fake. Sunho says, but what if Minjin and Hakyul are already at the station? Are we supposed to wait here forever? Of course, the mother, desperate to find her daughter, plays on Yena's emotions. Yeah, Yena, let's head to the base with the others. We can find more people to help. This place is too dangerous. It's only 2 kilometers. We'll get there fast. They pressure Yena's mind. She wants to stay with our boy. At that moment, he's in a bathroom, and by the trail of blood, you already know what's up. The family climbs into a car with the armed men. Judging by the military clothes, those guys know what they're doing. At least some ex-military are in the group. One of them has the protagonist pinned in the bathroom, immobilized, and says now he knows why the guy from the ambulance had a K2 rifle. Minjin tries to explain that they're not Gunja people and that he only met those guys along the way and they might not even be from the station. The kidnapper replies, I saw you talking on the roof and you look like friends. He makes an excuse. It's on fire on the other side. That fire is gonna spread here. The man says, relax, kid, the fire will take a while. Besides, my friend who followed your other buddy will be back soon. If both of them don't show up, that means he's dead, and then I'll kill you too. So pray my friend shows up. Then you notice his Minjin's face is turning purple and asks, are you infected? The protagonist can't believe this had to happen right now. The man says, you really are infected? You're basically dead. He adds, I can either let you turn into a zombie or have some fun. Whatever, might as well kill you now. As he's telling him to wait, something bangs on the door. The man looks up, goes to the door and calls, Dobangson, is that you? Dobangson? He seems confused. What the hell is Dobangson? The voice on the other side answers, Gang Nangi. The kidnapper relaxes and says, it's you. Good thing you came back. Of course, the second the guy turns and thanks him, it's Hakyul on the other side with an M4 aimed at his head. The protagonist is stunned and looking over sees the legend walking in. Hey Minjin. The protagonist is excited. Hakyul says he was on the construction site next door. Minjin asks what happened. Hakyul explains it was hard to get the man to drop his guard, but he finally did. The protagonist says, you look different. There's no way you're just a student. Are you special forces or what? Hakyul replies, you think I'm a spy? In this world, you've got to risk your life if you want to live. Now tell me, where's Lena and the rest of them? The protagonist says, we found some of my friends and it looks like they're heading to Gunja Station. Hakyul asks whether they're trustworthy. The protagonist says they're Byongjin and Sunho from school, friends he's known for a long time, and that there are some soldiers who seemed reliable. Hakyul says fine, then they need to get out of there. The protagonist apologizes because he'll have to be carried. His foot got hurt when he jumped from the other building. On the street, he says the symptoms are coming back for some reason, and the problem is if he arrives at Gunja Station and they treat him like he's infected. The protagonist asks, who are these people and what are they doing? Then we cut to a flashback. Obviously, to get the code out of the guy, Hakyul had to torture him. Completely wrecked, the prisoner says, I gave you the password. Also, we don't have a main base. We're always on the move. Right now, we're operating around Zhongxian. We'll probably be somewhere else by tomorrow. We're just ordinary people from the provinces. Hakyul snaps, you're lying? Ordinary? No way. Yesterday, some scumbag stabbed my friend. Depth wasn't the issue. The real problem was the blade covered in blood. Because of that, he got infected. We left him behind and now we're trying to find a cure to save him. I know that's almost impossible. So what do you think? This knife here is the same kind we used to kill infected when we were running away. If I stab you with it, you'll get infected too. I'm not trying to kill you. I'm running an experiment to see if blood straight into the vein really transmits the infection. All of that to threaten the idiot. He answers, we were from Zhongxian, one of the provincial prisons. When the virus spread, the prison became chaos. A lot of people escaped, me included. Once everyone heard Seoul fell into chaos, we ran and ended up here. Akyul understood, the group is a gang of criminals. Classic excuse, we're not evil bandits. Akyul says, no, all bandits are bad. Now if he wants to know how prisoners who escaped don't have weapons like that, did they kill a special forces operative or what? The prisoner says he didn't get it himself. Someone in their group did. A few days ago, a strange helicopter dropped a crate. Inside were guns, grenades, all kinds of stuff. Yep, real PUBG vibes. The prisoner adds, looks like one of those crates ended up with our leader. Another weapon was taken from a dead soldier. We have some grenades, but it's not that impressive. The guy even has a silenced M4 with a scope and says it's nothing special. Hakyul tells the protagonist, looks like someone's deliberately dropping weapons around. Could be to create chaos or maybe to arm people, but something weird is going on. Of course, the protagonist remembers the crate. He's already thinking of his game. At that moment, both of them are confused. There are a bunch of bodies on the ground and a sign warning anyone who approaches will be shot. Are you crazy? Let's get out of here. Seeing burned out cars and dead infected, the protagonist asks, have we reached Gunja Station? From above, there's a soldier with a gun and they notice him. He's taking aim. I don't know if Minjin thinks he's Professor Xavier or Magneto, but he looks like he shut his eyes when a bullet comes toward him. In fact, the shot hit a zombie behind him. The bad thing is gunfire will attract more monsters, so for now they have to hide. They duck into a side corner. Chapter 31, Safe Zone. Minjin says, Hakyul, if the infected don't attack me, why did you go first? Hakyul answers, no, we came together and we'll go in together. Unfortunately, they find the wall blocked and zombies are closing in behind them. With no other option, Hakyul readies his silenced rifle and starts firing. A guy up front tells them to run in, the protagonist throws himself forward. They both get through and Hakyul breathes a sigh of relief. But obviously, the soldiers tell him to drop his weapon and raise his hands, warning that if he's from another armed group, he'd better not try anything stupid. Naturally, everyone wants to know where he got that M4. The protagonist says, wait, isn't this Gunja? My friends should have arrived before me and with some people. But the soldiers just bark back, telling him to shut up and answer their questions. Where are you from? They demand. Hakyul replies, we're just students. Worst answer possible. The soldier scoffs, yeah right. No random student fires a rifle like that. Stop lying. Hachiel explains that a few days ago, a group from Gunja left in a vehicle and was attacked. Their own group, our protagonist group, was attacked by those same men and chased by them. The soldier yells, saying he must be with those lunatics, and demands an explanation. Another soldier wearing a cap tells him to calm down. They're just on high alert because of recent incidents, and they need to confirm everything first. But before anything else, they'll have to go through quarantine. They ask if either of them were bitten, and both say no. The good news for Minjin is that the symptoms finally start fading. He then says, "Oh, Byongjin and Bei Sunho, those guys are my friends. They must have just arrived here." The soldiers ask, "Wait, those two came back with other people? That's strange. Shouldn't they have gone through inspection first?" One of them answers, "They were on patrol, so I don't think so." He then radios in to report that the newcomers, Hachiel and Minjin, have arrived and tells them to wait. But Minjin looks tense. Bei Sunho had come back, but Byongjin hadn't. There were two more survivors with them, a woman and a boy. Minjin freezes, asking, "Hold on, something's not right. They should have been here by now. They came down the same street." On the radio, someone answers, "It seems one of the survivors with them insisted on staying behind to look for a friend. Byongjin stayed with that woman. Either way, the order is to escort both of them to quarantine." Minjin quickly asks, "Please confirm on the radio, was the one who stayed behind Yena?" But Hachiel already knows it is. If someone stayed back to look for him, then it could only be her. And apparently, Byongjin stayed too. Minjin then steps forward and says he has to go back. That friend stayed behind because of them. The soldier tells him to calm down and they'll send a team to bring them back. Besides, it's getting late. According to the rules, no one is allowed to leave after 6. Since they're already inside the territory, he can't just walk out. First, they'll be taken to the hospital for testing. With no other choice, Hachiel helps the protagonist to his feet. As they walk, Minjin looks around and comments, "Wow, this place is huge." The soldier nods, saying, "Yeah, we've taken control of the entire Gunja station. There's a massive number of survivors here. Several soldiers and ex-military have joined us, so we're finally expanding. This outer area is the furthest zone from the base. As you can see, there are barricades everywhere. Any area marked with an X means is crawling with infected. That large building up front is what we're trying to clear, but it's been rough. Still, if we can secure the lower floors, we'll be able to take in more survivors." Hachiel is impressed. "How did you manage to save so many people and get organized this quickly?" Meanwhile, Minjin, on the other hand, has a strange feeling. In the end, this inspection might end up giving a like on this video that helps Mamoru make more juicy content for his viewers, activate the cheeky little bell, and I'm out.